5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, August the 16th, 2025, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to have each and every one of you on board this morning. The theme of today is the path method for everyday spend in points and miles, part 3, rental cars. So today we'll be talking about how to book rental cars with credit cards, how to pay for them. And then the ultimate goal is to figure out how do I spend on my everyday spend with my various credit cards to accommodate or meet that goal. Speaking of meeting, let's go around the horn and just see who's on board this morning. I see Mike Newland. Good to see you this morning, Mike, and asks right away, what's your thoughts on the rumored FHR credit increase? Gonna be honest, I don't know anything about that, so I can't really give an opinion right now. Tom Graber comes in strong right away, gives one Dugroz Reports membership. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. Celebrate. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Ian M has arrived. Jay Chain says, I finally woke up early enough. Mi hermano, Cesar Joel is here. Good to see you, Cesar. We'll be talking at least a little bit about Puerto Rico this morning. And reminds everyone to punch the thumbs up button. Happy Tom is here, my fellow Pointaholics. Manuel Jimenez, Ian M. Watch to like ratio is way off, says Ian. So click the like button, please. Thank you. Good morning to all the math nerds, says TM Cowling. And Ian also thinks I would make an exceptional park ranger. Well, you probably saw the thumbnail of this video was me with the benefit of AI looking like a park ranger. It would depend on what kind of park ranger we're talking about here. If it was like a park ranger for a building, like the Hoover Dam or something like that. I think when I went to Martin Van Buren's home in Kinderhook, New York, that was a National Park Service thing. And it's literally just like, a small building the Park Service built and then his home, and that's it. You're just walking back and forth between those two things. Now, if it was like in the Rocky Mountains or Yellowstone, I don't know that I'd be the best park ranger out there. I don't exactly have park ranger physique and skills, but maybe I could get a job. There's a place in far northeastern Missouri, right along the Des Moines River, adjacent to Iowa, called the Battle of Athens Civil War Park, the northernmost battle of the Civil War that was west of the Mississippi River was fought there. And it was really just some, hick Confederates that were irregulars fighting a few Union soldiers. It was like a battle of like 200 people. And the funny thing I remember about that is one of their cannons they had was a hollowed out log, and it exploded after the first or second shot. Surprise. Sorry, I'm getting way off task here, but maybe I could be a park ranger at some place like that, just a little tiny national battlefield. Jay Spain says, every dollar you spend and every point you earn brings you one step closer to your next adventure. I agree with that. Happy earnings. Ian says, I'd make a good park ranger beside being late for work every day. Touche. D Green says, morning all. Caterpillar Rep asks, why is Dugroz always late? Well, that's a fair question. See, I work a full-time job, and I usually don't get off work till around 6 or 6:30 on Fridays. And then on Friday evenings, I have to, eat supper with my family. And then I start preparing my live stream around 7:30 or 8 in the evening, 8:30, depending on the day. And I get really tired, don't often make it past midnight, and then I have to wake up about 7 a.m. Last night was one of those late nights. I was actually asking for suggestions from my channel members, and I got a lot of great suggestions. So thank you to everyone who gave a suggestion. But I thought to myself, I need to do something easy. I'm like, you know what? I can bang this path method out thing. It's going to take a lot of data, but I can get it done, by 11 o'clock. Nope. It was like 12:30, 12:45 by the time I got to bed last night. So I'm always late because I'm tired. And then I wake up the next morning around 7 or 7:15, put the finishing touches on the presentation, which took a lot of time this morning. And then I load up all my Dugroz data points. And then usually I'm rushing like a madman to shave and get my hair in a decent shape and all that kind of stuff before we start. I could move it back 15 minutes, but I'm afraid if I set the start time for 9:45, then in my brain, I would be even later because I would be like, oh, I'm going to have to push it back to 9:52 this morning. So thank you for bearing with all my idiosyncrasies. I appreciate it. Israel Neves or Nives is here. Awesome thumbnail. And Xavier's arrived. Let's go. Helping me get some 1099Rs. Appreciate that, Xavier. Celebrate. Awesome. Thank you so much for your patronage. $20. Dad on a mission's here. Texas Dog is here. Catch 631 is here, stopping in before errands. Might watch some on the playback. And Ian M drops $4.99. Celebrate. And we are off. It's a very gloomy morning. I sit in front of a window with the shades pulled so it's not a glare. And it's gloomier than usual, which is why it's darker than usual. I've got my lights going, but this is just the way the lighting is. Don Kim is on board. How you doing? And boom, check it out. Take a look right there. Mike Newland, my benefactor. 20. Count them. 20. Dugroz Reports memberships coming in hot. That's just as good as a $60 super chat. Celebrate. This is a good time to just talk about what a Dugroz Reports membership is. So I have one and only one channel membership level. It's called a Diehard, Dugroz Diehard. You get access to early releases. Most of my videos will come out a day early if you're a diehard. A higher level of attention. You know, if you're a diehard, I'm more likely to chat with you offline. But also, over 50 members only videos. We're probably up around 55 now, actually. And if you want to join, binge them for a month or two, and then cancel, I won't be offended. But please consider sticking around. I have had several members that are now on board for more than a year and a half now, and I appreciate that. If you join while the video's going, while the live stream's going, we'll all have a little celebration together. I did make a rough draft of a members only video. It was a short of me singing a song about the City Nights program. So that's something you can look forward to. Unfortunately, YouTube smacked down the highest level of copyright blockage, not a strike, but they basically said, we're not going to let you publish this. So I'm going to have to redo it to get it under a minute, so they'll let me publish it. Rem GB says, good morning. Thanks for your efforts. Good to see you, Rem. And Nurakan is in from Los Angeles. Calder DS got a membership from Mike. Awesome. Hey, we got a little mallard in the picture there. Awesome. Mojo's on board. A little late. No problem. David William is on board. Good morning. Mojo says he's listening on his way to lovely Walmart. Hey, Walmart is a place that gets a lot of my spend. And Texas Dog says, I gave 5 memberships last week. The credit card statement shows it was rejected and refunded to my card. That's bizarre. I haven't seen anything about that on my end. Sorry to hear that. If anybody else has anything like that, let me know. 57 thumbs up. I don't know how many people are on board, but keep on clicking that thumbs up. That'll tell the system that other people need to come look at this thing that we got going on here. And I would appreciate it. Traditionally, we start with Dugroz data points, and today is no different. This is anything around the world of points, miles, cash back, and more that I find to be interesting. Every single data point this morning is something of a personal nature. I didn't have time to go to Doctor of Credit or Frequent Miler this morning like I sometimes do to supplement. This is just stuff that I've discovered. I know we've got some stuff like the Alaska Airlines premium card rumors are out. Etihad is not going to be a Chase transfer partner anymore. Mike mentioned something about the Fine Hotels and Resorts credit being increased as a rumor. I am not really on top of any of those things. You can feel free to ask me. I watched Matt Clausen's video on the rumored changes, or not changes, but the rumored launch of the Alaska Airlines premium card. So I'm a little up to date, but I spent probably 80% of my time on the theme of the day today. So we're going to have a shorter Dugroz data point section. Of course, I say that, may not feel like it once we get through it. But let's go ahead and dive into our first Dugroz data point. I got this offer from Chase on my Chase offers, and it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in any here. So remember the shops at Chase that were added as part of the relaunch of the CSR? This is basically like overpriced crap you can buy online, and they give you some credits towards that of some kind under certain conditions, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you want to buy a Dyson product, like a super expensive oscillating fan, you can get $180 off if you spend $450 or more. That expires on September the 10th if interested. So check your Chase offers. Next Dugroz data point here. This is shopping around for the best way to get to San Juan, Puerto Rico for the Creator Meetup. Plane tickets, I'm having a little bit of a hard time with that. I'm not finding a lot of epic value quickly and easily. One idea I had was to reposition to Miami, spend the night there, and then book a whole separate ticket, sort of like round trip Des Moines to Miami here, round trip Miami to San Juan here, kind of sandwiched within each other. While doing that, I found this bizarre anomaly. So it's a little hard to see, but here's a one-way ticket on American from Des Moines to Miami, 6 o'clock in the morning, $481. All right. Now let's look at the exact same as a round trip. Round trip. Yep, that's definitely round trip. 6 o'clock in the morning, $399. What? $481 one way, $399 round trip. How does the price go down by $90 when you fly round trip? I don't understand how airlines operate sometimes, and these little anomalies drive me nuts. It's like, if you fly from Minneapolis to Amsterdam, it's $1,000. Now, if you fly from Minneapolis to Amsterdam to Vienna, it's only $700. So we're adding a whole flight, making you cover a seat and gasoline, and the price goes down by $300. Or you add a whole nother leg to a round trip flight, and the price goes down by $90. If anybody can explain that, thank you. Next data point along the same kind of lines. This is more just disappointment in the Chase portal. So if you take a look here, this is a flight from FOD, which is Fort Dodge, Iowa, to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Round trip, $500 if you go with main cabin or standard economy, not basic economy, but it's regular old main cabin, $500. I looked up that exact same flight on the Chase portal, $521. Again, this is the exact same flight. So it's $21 more when using the Chase portal. Is that a terrible markup? No, 21 bucks over 500 is, what's that come out to? That's well under 5%, maybe 3%, something like that. But still, Chase, why do you have to inflate your prices? It just feels like you're gypping us when you do that kind of thing. And then one more along the theme of like plane tickets and stuff, poking around in the Chase portal. I think this is on my wife's newly minted Sapphire Preferred card. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Just noting that I looked up lots of flights here. This was when I was thinking about booking tickets for going to see my in-laws this winter. Southwest and United had points boost. And this was, again, on my wife's Sapphire Preferred. So I guess the 1.2, anybody let me know if this is right. We know the 1.5 went away under the new version of the Sapphire Reserve. I think the 1.25 has gone away on any newly issued Sapphire Preferreds too. Because this points boost comes out to 1.25, but any of the other airlines were just at 1 cent per point in the Chase portal. So it looks to me like even the 1.25 on Sapphire Preferred, if it's a new Sapphire Preferred, has now gone away because she just opened hers. I helped her open it like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Does anybody else have the ability to confirm that? You got a new CSP and you're confirming that it's not giving 1.25 on everything, but it is boosting a few things up to 1.25. Seems like that's where things are going. It's also possible I just screwed up and looked at it wrong, but let's keep our eyes on that. All right, back to the comments here. Forgot where we were. Matt Clausen's on board. It's been a light-ish week, news and rumor-wise. Maybe that's why I didn't have a lot of data points. That's what we'll blame it on. Matt says the FHR rumor feels like a nothing burger. Dennis wants an extra pickle on that nothing burger. Dennis Dunn is a diehard, and he's on board. Mike Newland said, I don't think I'd spend that much on a fan, even with $180 off. It seems like I remember one time, got a cough Cough. Unfortunately, I ran out of orange pills that are my cough suppressing pills. So I'm going to need to remember to talk in a calm voice. So if anybody hears me getting worked up, just remind me to be calm. What was I saying? Mike said the Dyson fan for $180 off. Let me blow my nose now. It's been a couple years, but I saw a YouTube video once that was like the Dyson fan versus some other name brand fan versus like the Walmart $20 oscillating fan. And he set up all these scientific tests just for air movement. And Dyson won on quietness, I think, by a small margin. But in terms of air movement, the $20 Walmart fan actually beat it kind of handily, which was funny. Brady is on board, says, "Good morning, Doug. I just got the Wells Fargo Signify cash, and the subs just keep rolling for me. Awesome. My wife and I both have that card." MR says, "Sounds delicious." I'm not sure what that's a reference to. We probably know. Oh, probably the Big Nothing Burger about the rumors. Dennis says, "You cannot deny Dugroz math." Absolutely. Xavier's laughing at the deal on Dyson, I think. And Ian says, "Doug, I can give you the points and book you a one-way on any AA or AS redemption to Puerto Rico that's an award fair. Just DM me." Thank you so much, Ian. I really appreciate that. Okay. I will look into that. Let me screenshot this. Wow, I never knew I had such generous people. The question is, like, how I always like to say travel has to pay for itself. How do I account for it when other people donate things to me? I really appreciate that. Green Knight is on board. Good morning. And D Green says, "That's correct. The CSP travel portal base is now 1 cent per point. Point boost will go up to 1.75. Okay. So boosting Southwest and United, at least in those cases, and that was like a few days before Christmas, were only 1.25, not even that ideal. Man, just everything's falling apart here in the worlds of points and miles. I tell you, what'll they think of next? All right, next Dugroz data point. Ooh, this is a little hard to read. Let me read it more. Let me zoom in more carefully. All right, this is a screen from Swagbucks. Have you heard of Swagbucks? It's sort of like one of those portals like Rakuten or a competitor along those lines. Mr. Points, whatever, Piggy Points. You visit a site and you get points, but sometimes they have like weird, like bank linked offers. This one is on Chime, so I don't know if it's still open or not, but Chime Bank had a promotion where if you go to Swagbucks, link through Swagbucks, open a Chime checking account and do a direct deposit, I think $250 or more, 2 months in a row, you'd get 1,200 Swagbucks just for opening the account, and then another 45,000 in meeting the standards, keeping it open for 2 months and doing the direct deposits. I had a hard time with getting Swagbucks to honor this one. Basically, I had to wait till after my second direct deposit hit. Then I had to wait 32 days because they have a thing that says, remember, it can take up to 32 days from that second deposit. Then I had to go online, fill out like a missing points requisition. And then after that, they basically said, like, it was like an automated email, but the automated email was like, here's all the reasons why this might not have tracked. Basically, you probably screwed up and did something wrong. I'm like, nope, because you gave me the initial 1,200 points, which is proof that it tracked. So you cannot claim it didn't track. It clearly did. Now you're not honoring the second part of the deal to give me the 45,000 points, which, that they're worth a penny each. So that's $450. You're not holding up your end of the bargain, and I can prove it. So I had to write them an email once and say, like, what do you need me to show you? Then I waited a couple weeks, emailed them a second time, and I was like, I'm going to send you screenshots showing my direct deposits to prove that I did this. And finally, like 3 months later, they finally emailed me, and basically they gave me the points, but even the way they said it kind of ticked me off. It was like, well, we've noticed that a lot of people are committing fraud. So we'll credit you your 45,000 points as a one-time courtesy. Well, obviously they gave me the point, so I can't, file a claim with Consumer Protection Bureau or anything like that and say they didn't do it. But the way they worded it was very much like, this is probably your fault, but I guess we'll give you your points. It makes me not really want to use Swagbucks much anymore. Maybe for like little online link stuff, like, go to CVS online, spend $10 and get 100 Swagbucks. Then I would probably do it. But like big stuff like this, $450, I think I'm probably going to stay away from them. Just, I don't have enough confidence that it's going to work. Do any of you have experience with Swagbucks and them being jerks about things? David Williams said, I've gotten like 40 Swagbuck bonuses, big ones like this. He says, write a ticket and they will pay. Okay, well, maybe something like they will use a lot of passive aggressive language, but then pay anyway. Steve says, Swag never credits me, so I gave up. Good morning, Steve. Not sure if we've seen you on board before. Aloha Danica says, thanks to Mike Mueller for the membership. Ian says, what Consumer Protection Bureau? Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, or what's the one that people thought was going away, but really they were just handicapped a little bit. I don't want to get into that because that's too close to a political discussion, and I don't want to go down that path. But basically, I didn't need to go to my state Department of Banking. I didn't need to go to the Comptroller of Currency. Do any of you know the Simpsons character Comptroller Atkins? I always assume it's him whenever I hear about the Comptroller of the Currency. I also remember there was wasn't there a congressman named last name Weiner, David Weiner or something like that from New York, who got accused of some naughty stuff. And then later on, he ran for comptroller of the state of New York. And in one of the political ads, somebody said something like, comptroller, he can't even comptrol himself. And I thought that was pretty good. All right, let's keep moving on here. Enough stupid comptroller jokes. We're going to talk about Capital One very briefly here, and I've come to their defense a little bit lately. I can't zoom in on this one, and I'm going to do it again here. This is a screenshot from a portion of my statement with Capital One Venture X. It's a little hard to see, but if you look right here, New Balance, it's $6,500. New Balance, that's where you buy your shoes. And of that, somewhere around 4,000, 4,500 was a 0% offer. One of those one-time 0% offers when it was a Venture One card. Then I product changed it and they made it clear they would honor that. I like that they put this line here called interest saver payment. And basically, this is the amount you have to pay to avoid interest on non-promotional purchases. So the reason why I'm saying this is because some people act like Capital One just wants to trick you all the time and steal their money. And I've seen a YouTube video or two about Capital One as a predatory lender. A statement I could make in the converse is, if they were that predatory, why would they put right here on the front page of your statement the exact amount you need to pay to avoid interest? So I know of my 6,000 balance, a little over 2,000 is not within that 0% interest. So I thought that's a hat tip to Capital One, a good they did. Last week I said I got an email that said like, hey, in 30 days, your 0% offer is going to expire. Pretty noble of them. The one thing I will bash Capital One for is when you go online to either their app or their online application website to make a payment, it doesn't update the remaining statement balance as you go, which, you could interpret that as they don't want, like, let's say you make more than one payment to get towards the statement balance, maybe some from your credit union, some from your bank, which I do that kind of stuff now and then. I wish they would tell you, like I know Chase does, like say you have $1,000 statement balance and you've paid $400 from your credit union. As soon as they get that payment, it'll update and it'll say remaining statement balance $600. Capital One doesn't do that. So you'd have to actually open your statement, look at the last statement balance, and then do the math to figure out how much is left. Or you can just pay off the whole thing, then you're fine. But I don't know. I don't think Capital One is as bad as some people make it out to be, but maybe there's some people out there with different experiences, especially if you're not paying your statement balance in full on a regular basis. Catching up on comments. This is about swag bucks. David Williams says, they've always paid me the Stakeus bonus is good. I don't know what that is. Another screenshot here and I'll figure it out. They give you $1 a day, gotten like $200 in Bitcoin, LOL. Okay, well, I'll look into that. Anthony Weiner. Thank you, Texas Dog. That's the guy who can't control himself. Dennis Dunn, Anthony Weiner from New York. Yeah, I think Dennis is from New York City, or at least that general area. Anthony Weiner, New York legend, not in a good way. MR says, I need ketchup on that Wiener news. Ian M says, I think ketchup on hot dogs over the age of 12 is criminal. I better just not comment on that. I'm in Chicago, strongly concur, says MR, and Tiger Maple is just here to support the algorithm. We got 59 people on board, so keep on smashing thumbs up. We've had 2 shows now where I've cleared 100 concurrent people. Let's see if we can do it. Usually we clear that sometime after like 10:45 Central, 11:45 Eastern. We're getting closer to lunchtime in the Eastern time zone. That's when we tend to kind of bump up there. So I said I only had a few data points and they're all personal, and now it's taking longer than I expected. So maybe I did okay. All right. Here is something that says parking charge appeal. So I may have mentioned this before. When we went to England and Wales several weeks ago, a couple months ago, month and a half ago, whatever. I accidentally parked in a hillside parking lot that I thought was government owned. Turned out it was privately owned. And I thought I went up to the little machine and paid correctly, but I didn't because of a thing called select your tariff, and it screwed me up. So they had emailed me saying, hey, you're going to get a fine, but didn't say what it was. Okay. 2 weeks after that, I got like a 40-pound charge, which was, a 35-pound charge, which was $48 or something like that on my Aeroplan card from Enterprise. I'm like, yep, there's my fine. Okay, no problem. Time went on, nothing happened. Now, like 6 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from Belgium. I don't know why Belgium. That's probably just the company that runs it. I open it up and it says, you've been fined £100, but if you pay this promptly, we'll take it down to 60. And I'm like, crap. This is that fine thing. Asthma break. And what it is so the company itself, called Parking Eye, again, it was a privately owned lot, even though I thought it was a municipal lot, is charging me the fine. Enterprise is just charging me to administer the fine, basically to send my name, address, and information over to Parking Eye. So by the time I finally got it, I decided to write an appeal just based on like goodwill, I hope. And what I wrote is this. This is so hard to see. Let's not worry about it too much. Hello, I'm a tourist from Iowa in the United States. I had much difficulty in figuring out the machine for making payment. I apologize. If you watch the video, you can see that I stood at the machine for quite some time and made a good faith effort to pay. I received 2 receipts attached. It wasn't until much later that I realized the payment had failed for an unknown reason, possibly my lack of understanding how the payment terminal worked. I know that I need to pay, certainly. Is there a chance you could show mercy on me and reduce the fine to a smaller amount, perhaps at half? I very much appreciate your consideration. So basically, I took the approach of, I'm a stupid American tourist. Please have mercy on me. Have you ever heard that Simpsons quote? I think it's from one of the Treehouse of Horrors, where Moe says, I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to sniff my own butt. So basically, I said, I'm such an idiot. Would you please have mercy on me and charge a smaller amount? I don't actually have an answer yet. So hopefully they do. But if they don't, I'm just kind of screwed. Here's a picture of the 2 receipts that I had attempted to get, and I didn't notice or understand until later. It says void transaction up at the top. If you want to go back, you want a quick summary. Basically, I had to select a tariff, which meant their way of saying how long you're going to be there, but I didn't understand what it meant, so I accidentally skipped it. I should have just chosen the largest tariff, which was £10, which would have been way less than the £60 they're trying to charge me now, plus the 35 from Enterprise. So I guess moral of the story is, if you're traveling in a foreign country and you don't know how much of a parking meter to pay, just pay the biggest one. It's better than the alternative. And then lastly, I wrote this to Enterprise because I thought it was worthy of consideration. I said, can you please explain why I was charged approximately 35 pounds by Enterprise if I was billed directly for this fine by the municipality? And they wrote back and says, the applied administration fee ensures prompt and efficient processing of all fines. We would see no reason to cancel the fee unless the fine itself is canceled, subject to an appeal. Basically, Enterprise had to use all these time and resources to give my name, address, and payment information. They didn't give my payment information, my name and address to Parking Eye. Boy, that must have taken them at least 30 seconds. I wrote back and said something like, I think your processing fee of 35 pounds, which is like, what did I say, $47 is ridiculous for literally sending them my name and address. But so be it. So I don't know if I'm going to have to pay that fine or all of that fine or part of that fine, but that tale will be continued a little later. Ian says Chicago dogs are so legit. Great. Tiger Maple says Chase has a 100% transfer bonus to IHG. Thoughts? I still don't see the advantage in doing that because normally it would be 1-to-1. And since IHG points are only worth a half cent each, even if you double that, now they're worth 1 cent each. So yeah, it's like cashing out for penny points. Why not just cash out your penny points and buy the IHG points? The only thing I could see is if you hit a point where they're not on sale and you really need them right now, or a top off. I've done that before. I've even done a top off with like a 60% transfer bonus, but generally I wouldn't do it as a long-term strategy. I wouldn't do it as a speculative thing, but if you really need IHG points right now, at least with 100% bonus, you're at least equaling penny points. Ian says 100% good, all-time high. You've piqued my interest. I don't know much about IHG. MR says, let's hope the Belgian don't waffle at reducing your fine. Belgian waffles. Texas Dog said, I had similar issue with improper exiting of a roundabout in Italy. I don't rent cars overseas. Boy, I loved renting my cars in the United Kingdom, but like I've had some bad experiences with like fines and stuff lately. 2 years ago in London, I got fined for driving through the passenger drop-off area when coming up to Heathrow Airport because I followed the sign for like where Hertz's shuttle picks up instead of the sign to get to the Hertz rental car village. And, you know, like in America, you can get in trouble for like parking where it's like a drop-off zone. Apparently in London, merely driving through that area, even if you don't stop, gets you a fine. If you don't pay the whatever toll, the Bridge of Despair toll. When I was in Albany, New York last spring, I saw Matt Clausen and I got fined for something there. Oh yeah, I parked in a zone close to the state capital of New York that the sign made it look like I was allowed to park there, but I actually wasn't. And then this most recent one in Wales. So having some issues with fines and fees related to parking rental cars. Steve says, I think you can generally buy IHG points for pretty cheap. Might not be a good redemption. And Dennis Dunn says, Enterprise did you dirty, Doug. I agree. I mean, if it was 5 pounds or something, I'd understand, but 35? Come on, man. This was just a funny comment that I saw online. This was about the new Citi Strata Elite. Somebody on Reddit said, Citi has created a premier travel card that hates when you travel. Very on brand for Citi. This is people complaining about getting like fraud alerts constantly, getting their card locked constantly. Like I went to a store where I'd gone multiple times before and I got a fraud alert and they locked my card and mailed me a paper letter with the instructions on how to unlock it. And I had to wait for it. So yeah, some more complaints about Citi and their fraud issues. It's time for the Dugroz Eats segment of the week. This is from a local Mexican restaurant. Mexican buffet. I won't say the name because it would give away maybe the town that I live in, which I don't want to do, but that's melted cheese sauce right there. Queso. Dip. Delicious. Hope I'm making you all drool this morning. Next, Dugroz data point. This is kind of complicated, but this is basically my cash out of cash back rewards. So you know how I talk about travel has to pay for itself. It's sort of my self-imposed rule. So like if I'm on vacation or a rip trip and I go to Burger King and buy a $7 item, I have to account for that somehow. Well, there's lots of things you can't pay for with points. You have to pay for it with cash. So where does all that cash come from? Well, sometimes it comes from things like the Swag Bucks bonus on Chime or other bank account bonuses. Sometimes it comes from credits, and sometimes it comes from just plain cashback credit cards. As far as credits like Chase offers, Wells Fargo offers, Amex offers, built-in credits, what I do is I deduct my annual fees from my travel savings account, and then I credit back to that travel savings account any credits that I get. I like that for a couple reasons. One is it really helps you think about, are these credits worth the annual fee when you literally write a check, or if not literally, at least figuratively write a check, take a debit from your family account over to your travel savings account to pay for it. So if I have to pay the $399 fee in the Venture X, I am literally moving money out of my travel savings account. And that's painful, but I think that pain is good, and then I gradually recoup it. So I'm constantly keeping like a ledger of debits and credits. In some months, my family budget owes my travel account money if the credits outweigh annual fees and such. Other times, my travel savings account owes my family budget money, and that would be situations where annual fees or expenses outweigh any credits. So let me just give you a few examples of how I do this. And there's no certain time frame. I clear this out about every 2 months or quarterly, something like that. But some examples are like the Blue Business prefer. It's supposed to be the BCP, Blue Cash Preferred from Amex. Gives a $7 Hulu credit, although that's been changed to a Blue Cash every day. I don't know why I listed it wrong. Hy-Vee Fuel Saver, $2.09. A wireless credit on my wife's business platinum. She got automatic cash back on her Blue Business Cash. That's an Amex card that gives cash back, 2% on everything, and it just automatically applies it as a statement credit. There was that State Farm business card promo on Adobe annually, $100. Here's a little tiny one, Dollar General Wells Fargo offer, $2.50. And then things that cost me money, like here's a CIP annual fee, a Dell overuse. So in other words, I got the Dell credit, but I spent $1.37 more than the credit offset. This particular 2-month period, the credits way outweighed the annual fee. So I was able to write a check from my family budget over to my travel savings account for $432. So if you're wondering about like, does Dugroz actually do this thing where he tracks all those credits and makes sure that his family budget isn't touched by credit cards, points, and miles? Yep, I actually do that. So just thought I'd mention that right there. Show you a little example. Dennis says, boy, Doug, you know how to get a guy hungry, don't you? That's why I'm here. RemGB says, why don't you use the CSR travel portal to book the plane ticket, as the points boost will be higher there. And also you should still have the 1.5 cents per point on the portal till October 26th. Definitely something I'm considering. I'm assuming you mean how to get to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Yeah, that's on the table. Other things on the table are, I still have enough Aeroplan bandwidth to use some of that this year. Do I want to save my Chase points for something else? So I definitely could do it that way. I've got this dumb American Airlines credit for one of my repositioning flights that we had to cancel. It's like, I don't know, $150 or something like that, over at Amex Travel. And apparently Amex Travel is very restrictive. And if you have a changeable but not cancelable fare, you have to use it on the same airline, same passenger within 1 year. So I may not even ever use that because I have to fly American. I have to book it through Amex Travel. So we'll see. I kind of want to use that. One thing I kind of hate in points and miles is like having something that you have to use, to make sure you don't get ripped off. Like, just give me the points. Part of the reason why I struggle with FNCs. Hey, 59 people on board. Not too bad, but I'd like to see that up in the 80s or so. So keep on smashing thumbs up. Next Dugroz data point here. To help save on that annual fee type thing, I used 44,000 Chase points to wipe out my annual fee on my Chase Sapphire Reserve. Now, I was debating this, but my cash amount is very low due to my vacation to the United Kingdom and Austria earlier this summer. So just in case you're ever thinking like, oh, why would you ever use, I think it comes out to 1.1 or 1.13 cents per point. No, it doesn't. It comes out to 1.25. Why would you use 1.25 cents per point in Chase? You get so much more value. Well, you know what's my points. I'm going to use it how I want. So that's what I did. Next Dugroz data point is on my wife's new-ish Sapphire Preferred that she got. Like within a day or within 24 hours of activating it, I was able to go online and move credit around. So I moved, I don't remember. I think 4,000 maybe it was 4,000 from her Freedom OG card over to the Sapphire Preferred, just so it'd have a bigger credit balance. They originally gave her 5,000. Now it's up to 9,000. So that's a lot better bandwidth, easier to use. So yeah, the relatively new feature on Chase of moving your credit limits around really does work. Hat tip to Anthony Venture for this next one. There are links floating around out there for an extra $100. So basically the normal $200 bonus after you spend $500 on the Saver card. But right now, $100 travel credit in the Capital One portal also, which, some people don't like portal coupons, and I admit it's not my favorite. But if it's like the normal sign-up bonus plus this, it's just a cherry on top. I don't have a link to this. I don't have a refer a friend or anything. So you can go over to Anthony Ventures, whatever, link tree, and I'm sure he can point you in the right direction. But I thought that was worth bringing up. I even tried it myself, and they won't let me have the sign-up bonus. So one of these days, I might open the Saver and just cry because I have to do it without getting a sign-up bonus. RemGB says, instead of using wife's CSP 4-point boost, referring to the CSR. Yeah, it was just one of those poking around things. I also need to meet minimum spend on my wife's CSP, so that's part of the reason I was thinking about putting it there. So those are all good points, but just things to consider. Luke is here from Luke's Points and Miles. How you doing, Uncle Luke? What is up, Douglas? I used Ultimate Rewards for my CSR last year. Why not? Okay, glad I'm not the only one. 1.25 is a whole lot better than 1.0, and at least in my case, the money's got to come from somewhere. Steve says I can send credit limit from my United card to my United card, but I can't send it from United to the CSR. Kind of weird. Well, that is weird. Any chance if you log in and chose the other card first? David said, remember that Chime bonus is not taxable. It might be if redeemed through PayPal. So I have to decide if I want the taxability of cashing out through PayPal or if I want to get like a hotels.com gift card or something and make it non-taxable. Sorry. Des Dunn says, don't knock the Capital One portal. It's run by Hopper. It's good. I don't believe I did knock the Capital One portal, but hey, that is a good lead-in because we'll be talking about that in the main event. Rex Blind is here, said we should get free breakfast joining this live. Well, maybe I'll have to come up with a Dugroz points transfer to Perkins or something like that. Thank you so much, Rex. Hey, you got a new avatar. Celebrate. Thank you for all you've done. Okay, what's next on my list? The last one I did was Anthony Ventures link. Let's go to the next one after that. So this is interesting. This is a screenshot from my Chase app, and the name of the purchase is Wells Fargo Rewards. I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but if you're wondering, can you use a non-Wells Fargo credit card to pay for Wells Fargo's travel portal? The answer is yes. So our very first flight of our family vacation was a repositioning flight from Des Moines to New York City, and I booked it through the Wells Fargo portal because I have the old Golden Ponies card that gives you 1.5 cents per point. And just a little bit that wasn't covered by points, something along the lines of taxes and fees for $8.71. I was like, man, I'm going to try using my CSR and see what happens. Insurance protections should be 3x. This is pre-nerf. And yeah, I did earn 3x on it. So It coded as travels. You can see with the picture of the airplane. That'll maybe come into play later in our main event. So if you want to use like a Chase card to pay for a Wells Fargo portal, as long as the portal lets you use another card, Chase is good with it. I'm going to save that for some other time. Next, I saw someone saying not too long ago that the American Express Business Platinum's deposit with points feature was broken. And to be more specifically, this is the feature where if you have both a Business Platinum and a business checking account, you can cash out for 1 cent per point by making a deposit to your American Express business checking account. So after seeing like 2 different people on Discord say that, yeah, it's not working right now, you have to call in, they say it'll be fixed in a while. This was probably middle of last week, like maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I tried it myself on my wife's account and it worked just fine. So either they fixed it or people were doing it wrong. So I 5,000 points cashed out, $50, worked just fine. And yes, that was part of that spreadsheet that I showed you earlier. I wanted to do that just to top things up a little bit and get you this data point. So the deposit with points feature is still working. I will say you have to be very careful because when you go to redeem rewards, the default option is either statement credit or like deposit it to any checking account. And that's only 0.6 of a point or maybe 0.8 of a point. Don't do that. In my experience, you have to have, I did it through the desktop. I don't know if it works on the app or not, but on the desktop, select your business checking account and then go to redeem rewards. And it should be one of the options called deposit with points. Anybody else who has a similar data point, let me know. Rex wants to know if you can still product change the Golden Ponies card, although there's no literal Golden Ponies anymore. The Wells Fargo Visa Signature Rewards card. I don't know the answer to that. I haven't seen any compelling data points. I've heard speculation, but I haven't seen a data point of someone that is credible saying, yes, I actually did that. So I just plain don't know. I'm sorry. Random kind of personal thing. My dad, well, both of my parents have an Aflac policy. Actually, 27 years ago, I briefly was an insurance salesman, sold both of my parents an Aflac policy. My dad's been in and out of the hospital several times in the past year. We finally got around to filing a claim. Aflac has lots of different types of coverage, so hit me up offline if you want details. So not every policy covers everything. He has a cancer policy, which covers some things even if they aren't cancer. He doesn't have cancer. He has a specified health event policy, but both of those policies put together, and we finally did all the paperwork, and it took a long time. Paid over $16,000. So in this case, there's a check in the mail coming to my dad for $16,000 from Aflac. So I just wanted to point out that Aflac's customer service is awful, but the product itself, if used properly, can actually pay out pretty well. Tom Graber says, I chuckle when I read about how everyone says Chase points should only go to Hyatt, as if Hyatt can help you fly to London. LOL. I agree with that. Tom says, I haven't done an official auto where my UR points go, but offhand, I guess it's about 40% Aeroplan, 40% Portal at 1.5x, 10% United, 10% Hyatt. Yeah, Hyatt's just not everywhere you need it to be. I will admit they are a great option a lot of the time, but just not enough to say, I'm going to always use nothing but Hyatt. The first time I went to London, I would have been glad to stay in a Hyatt, but like there was 4 or 5 Hyatts in kind of the central part of London. Not a single one had rooms available that you could pay with points. The nearest one was like 13 miles away out in the suburbs. So we ended up going with a Hilton. Excuse me. Got to talk in a more calm voice. The DoubleTree in San Juan, Puerto Rico was available. So I booked it. My first 2 nights in Puerto Rico, Friday night, Saturday night, I have booked into the DoubleTree for 60,000 points per night. And it was pretty good on cents per point. It was somewhere around like, it actually ended up being more than double this right here. So don't go off this. It ended up being around, well, because it's fine print, $45 resort fee per night. But that's waived on all point stays. Ended up being around 0.88 cents per point, something like that. And then the second 2 nights for the Puerto Rico meetup, Hyatt House in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So I know it says Friday, but that's not accurate. So you want to look at Friday, November 7th, Saturday, November 8th, and then the subsequent Sunday, Monday. In my case, I'll go home Tuesday because it's always cheaper to fly back to Des Moines on Tuesdays. So I've got a place to stay for the creator meetup. I'm about 70% that I'm going. Fingers crossed. And now I have to find plane tickets. So maybe look at the DoubleTree if you can't get into the big time Hilton Caribe, where a lot of people seem to be going. Do you guys use Fetch Rewards? Fetch is the app where you scan your receipts and you get like a couple pennies every time you scan it. Finally did my first redemption about 2 days ago. Redeemed for Amazon. It's not even a penny per point. 28,000 points got me $25. So just or 1/10 of a penny per point. It's not even that. It's a little less than that. But after 3 or so years of scanning, I finally have enough for $25. I know Fetch has a credit card where it's like terrible. Like you're not even getting a penny per point on it. So unless there's some hack I'm not familiar with, don't bother using that credit card. But basically it said something like it'll be available 72 hours after you submit it. So like it still hasn't shown up. Have any of you ever claimed a Fetch reward? How long does it take to get the email or the notification or whatever that your gift card's finally ready to go? That's what I'm wondering. That's the same comment. Haven't had any comments in a while, so any tiny thing, a comment, a super sticker, it all helps. I appreciate it. Everybody's favorite segment, we don't take Amex. I have a new entry here. I don't remember if I discussed this last week or not. If I did, I apologize. This is the app for the Iowa DNR, Department of Natural Resources. My son needed to get a 1-day fishing license. Now that my boys are over 16, they have to have a fishing license. And the Iowa DNR app, well, it takes Visa, it takes MasterCard, it takes Discover, but you know what's missing? It does not take American Express. So add one more to the We Don't Take Amex future blog of mine. Last Dugroz data point. I have this Fifth Third Bank 1% cash back everywhere card. And yes, literally, it only gives you 1% cash back on everything. And that's the only reward it has. The only reason I opened it was because it had 18 months of 0% APR on purchases. So I made a couple big purchases on it and did the arbitrage of not having to pay interest for 18 months. But we're beyond that 18 months now. I've paid it off in full. I wrote close July 30th, 2025, supposedly, because I called to close both the credit card and my checking account. I had a checking account that I actually got for a one-time sign-up bonus when I was traveling through Illinois several months before I got the card. And I thought, well, I've got the card. I'll keep it in case I need to make a last-second payment or something. It has a whopping $5 in it. When I called to close both, they said, all right, we've got it done. The credit card is closed. Now let me work on the checking account. And I got hung up on during that call. So I called back finally earlier this week and said, hey, did you really close my credit card? Yes, Mr. Rose, I can confirm we definitely closed your credit card on July 30th. And that's probably true. It's not showing on my app anymore. But unfortunately, the checking account's still open. Let me help you out here. So what you have to do is get your balance down to zero. You've got $5 in it. I'm like, oh, well, just mail me a check. I don't care. I don't think we can do that. I'm like, well, what are the other options? Well, you can use not Venmo. What's the other one that banks have? One of those services that I'd never use. It's like, I don't have that. Oh, okay. Well, can you go to your nearest branch? Sir, the nearest branch is something like 200 miles from my house. Oh, let me check. Puts me on hold for a long time. I'm sorry. We don't have any options for you. You'll have to draw it all the way down to zero and then call back. So kind of ticks me off a little because any other checking account I've had, if you have a small balance, like under $25, they just mail you a check when you close it. But apparently Fifth Third is too cheap to use the 71-cent first-class postage to mail me a check. Instead, I'm going to call their call center 3 times. And they're going to have to pay the salary and expenses for that employee 3 times. So what I'll have to do is like make a $5 payment on one of my credit cards and draw it out of this bank, then call back and close it. So customer service for Fifth Third Bank. I know somebody else said one other time that, oh, I've had good customer service from Fifth Third Bank. Maybe they do, but at least not with account closings. Zelle. Yes, it was Zelle. Thank you. Did that account finally get closed? It did. The credit card, not the checking account. So I got to work on that. Texas Dog says, bring back Diners Club and Carte Blanche. I know what Diners Club is. I don't know what Carte Blanche is. Thank you, Texas Dog. $1.99 super chat. Celebrate. Very much appreciated. Isn't it true that, like, if a place says they take Diners Club, it's like the same network as Discover, so that means they will automatically take Discover, something like that? If Matt Clausen was on board, he would know. And then Kid Cat 37 also drops $1.99. Celebrate. Thank you so much, Kid Cat. Steve says, my local credit union tried the same thing. They eventually wrote me a check for my 53 cents. I didn't cash it. Are you doing that on purpose just to spite them? So they have to go to the time of processing it again? Because most places, like, they want everything to balance. I know, like, the company I work for, not that it's in banking, but like if we owe someone money, we'll send out like requisition forms and letters and call them till we finally make good on it. If it's like, hey, you have a check from 3 years ago for $4 you never cashed, let's replace that. Mike Newland says Fifth Third is a terrible bank. Okay, not just me then. Background Balloon says, yo, hey, I like your avatar. Name checks out. Good to meet you, Background Balloon. Steve says, I think Diners Club still exists in Japan. Discover bought Diners Club. Interesting. That would support my theory then. If you see a place that had like a really old sign on the wall that says we take Diners Club, as long as they haven't changed, in theory, they should take Discover. I actually ate at a place maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Speaking of old things, I'm sure you've all heard of Muzak, M-U-Z-A-K, which was a company that provided easy listening music to like restaurants and grocery stores and businesses. It was always like super non-offensive music, like of the 60s, 70s, 80s. Dun 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 dun. Kind of like the music from The Sims, if you've ever played that. This restaurant was an older restaurant. It's an older restaurant, sir, but it checks out. In Waterloo, Iowa, or at least near Waterloo, Iowa. Sirloin Stockade, maybe. On the wall, they actually had a dial that said Muzak volume, like not labeled, like printed from the company. And I turned it up and nothing happened. I wanted to get some Muzak. It was just like out there in the open where anybody could adjust it. Sorry to be so random. That concludes the Dugroz data points. Let's go ahead and move on to our theme of the day. We're going to be talking about the path method. We're going to be talking about part 3 of the path method for everyday spend in points and miles, and it is about rental cars this week. So I will probably turn this into a standalone video. So let me go ahead and get that going, get that ready to go here. So you're going to hear a little behind the scenes magic here. Five, four, three. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Today, we're talking about the path method for points and miles, part 3. This is all about rental cars. This is the path method for everyday spend in points and miles. So, need to give you a little bit of background, little bit of a refresher here in terms of what this is all about. So, what's the problem that I'm trying to solve? The problem is big shiny object syndrome for spend, or big multipliers. And I put some examples down here at the bottom. This is probably just a refresher if you've seen this before. Amex Gold gives you 4x on dining. Wells Fargo Attune gives you 4x on like beauty supply salons, pet supply stores, that kind of stuff. Hilton Surpass gives you 6x on groceries. Wyndham Earner Business Card gives you 8x on gas. And those are all big numbers, but are those numbers that useful or that meaningful? How does it fit into your goals and your spend? Should you go grab a card like the Attune, like the Amex Gold, just because that's a big number? Or is there more to the story than that? Well, the problem is that second bullet point, the card drives the goal rather than the goal driving the card. So the path method is a method where I'm trying to help people think through how they should set up their everyday spend. So here is path, the solution. P, you have to pick your travel goals. A, you have to assess your ecosystem options. T is you tailor point earnings to your spend. And H is you harvest your rewards. We'll go through those one by one as we get a little further. I do want to remind everyone this is part 3, so go back and watch parts 1 and 2. It'll make a lot more sense. That was from like June or maybe even May that I made those first 2 videos. So hopefully you've been around for a while. If not, go ahead and catch those and it'll probably make a lot more sense. Catching up on comments here, Dennis Dunn says, I listened to Muzak for 30 years. Did you work at a restaurant or a grocery store or something? And Background Balloon says, LOL. Now restaurants just play the same 5 pop songs on repeat. Oh, man. I get if you're an employee, Dennis, you may not love it. But, man, as a person who eats there or shops there, I would way rather have Muzak than the same 5 pop songs on repeat. I'm kind of an old soul. I will actually go out to YouTube and listen to like old Muzak records and that kind of stuff. I mean, look over my shoulder there. I've got The Seekers. I've got Herb Alpert from the 80s. I'm all about non-offensive music. Background Blue also says, I know a few people who love using the Wyndham business card for gas, but actively avoid most of the Wyndham properties. Well, that's what we're getting at here. So hopefully we'll all learn something from this. Couple disclaimers here. One is this is highly personalized. What works for me might not work for you, but I want to show you how I'm doing my thought process, and then you can apply, you can glean some wisdom from this as well. And secondly, this is for everyday spend, not sign-up bonuses. We all know that year 1 getting a sign-up bonus with a card is almost always worthwhile. So P, the first letter in the acrostic, pick your travel goals. Don't think I have to really define this. I think you'll figure out what I mean just by looking at some examples. Everyone has different priorities, and these will sometimes conflict with each other. For example, maybe you want to do upscale hotels, but you also want little or no out-of-pocket expense. Those might contradict, so pick which one is more important to you. Maybe you'd rather have a vacation rental. Maybe you're taking a lot of road trips. Maybe you want quantity over quality, or you want premium cabin flights. None of these goals are wrong, but decide what's most important to you. Some more examples would be family travel. You're bringing your wife and kids. You want to do international travel. You want upscale lounges. You want to be loyal to one airline. You want many small trips. You just want to do a lot of weekend getaways like I know Uncle Luke has done in the past. Maybe you're really loyal to one brand. You're like Cesar and you just love Hilton, so you want to lean into it. None of those are right. None of those are wrong, but you pick what's important to you. And once you know your goals, you'll have to go through each of your goals and apply the other steps to them. Now, I'm going to tell you what my goals are for the remainder of 2025, going into 2026 and beyond. And I've mentioned these before, but just to review, goal number 1 is Hiltons. I really like Hiltons. I like the guaranteed connecting rooms. I like my gold status. I'm going to be visiting, I wouldn't say mostly Hiltons, but a decent handful of Hiltons over the next several years. Number 2 is non-chain lodging. When I'm not staying at a Hilton, I like to stay at like a cabin in the woods or Airbnbs or Vacasa vacation rentals or just some weird boutique hotel on the edge of a lake that you really can't book through any sort of big hotel chain. Number 3 is rental cars. I like to go to the kind of places you can't get to unless you have a rental car. For example, if you want to get to the grave of Martin Van Buren in upstate New York, there's no bus, there's no train that takes you there. So you're going to have to rent a car unless you live close by and can drive your own car. If you want to go to Blackwater Falls in West Virginia, you're going to have to rent a car. And then number 4 is flexible domestic flights. So because my boys are heading off to college, we're going to be doing some college tours. They have part-time jobs. They have sports. I don't think we're going to be doing a whole lot of big international trips like going to Sweden or the United Kingdom or Austria in the near future or Japan. It's probably going to be a lot more like going to Florida, going to Montana, going to New York State, those kinds of things. So I don't love flying economy. I'd rather have like premium economy, but you know, if it's under 90 minutes, I don't mind. And I want it to be flexible because I don't want to have to be loyal to just one airline. A plurality would probably be American, but sometimes it's United, sometimes it's Southwest. Sometimes it's Delta. It just varies a lot because I don't live near a hub. If you are observant and have watched other of my videos, you'll notice that recently number 3 and number 4 flip-flopped. I did have domestic flights listed as number 3, rental cars listed as number 4. Partially because last week, not the one that just came out a day or two ago, but a week ago, Frequent Miler did their podcast on rental cars, and they covered a lot of good stuff, but they also didn't hit on the stuff that I want to highlight, which is like which credit card you use to pay for it, which credit card you use to earn the points you're going to later use to redeem for the rental cars. They had a lot of good stuff, but I thought, hey, let's just piggyback off what I learned from that and do my own video about rental cars as it pertains to the PATH method. Rex says, Yacht Rock, is that Muzak? They're cousins. They're kissing cousins, even if it's not the exact same thing. All right, let's keep going here. Bigginize the screen. Right now, we are here. Oh, let me back that up. I did that poorly. 5, 4, 3. We are here today. We're talking about rental cars. All right, so pick. Today's example is, in fact, number 3, rental cars. And on the screen here, I have some pictures of different times I've used rental cars. All of these are within the last 18 months, I'm pretty sure. Let me go through this mentally. The first one chronologically would have been from April of 2023. That's the bottom left one, kind of that silver car. This is somewhere in rural West Virginia, actually parked at a rural cemetery that didn't have a driveway. It's just like you drive on the grass, and took my picture there with that rental car. Then I went in fall of last year. So like October of, I said 23. Last year was 24. Spring of 24. Over here we have October of 24, the Route 66 Brick Road, not too far from Springfield, Illinois. And then in April of last year, I went to upstate New York. This is in a random Osco drug or Rexall drug type parking lot that was abandoned in Catskill, New York, home of Mike Tyson. And then just a few months ago, we were in Wales, and there's my rental car there in the United Kingdom at the place where we stayed in a cottages.com rental booked with Wyndham points. To clarify, the cottage was booked with Wyndham points, not the rental car. So I do make frequent use of rental cars. Let's assess rental cars, ways to book. So now that we've picked our categories, and we're going to focus on just one of them today, rental cars, the next step in PATH, the acrostic, is A, assess. This is different ways to book rental cars. So all you have to do is kind of think about door 1, door 2, door 3. I could book a rental car this way. I could book it this way. I could book it this way. What are the different ways you can book rental cars? Option 1 is directly with a rental car company. So you can go directly to Avis or Hertz or Enterprise or whoever and just go to their app and book a car. You can do that without doing any comparison pricing, or you can do it in conjunction with comparison pricing. Option 2, you can use Expedia or something similar, Orbitz, Priceline. What's the William Shatner one? Can't remember. One of them. Kayak. You can use some sort of third-party company that's not credit card affiliated. Now, obviously, in both of these options, 1 and 2, you're not using any sort of ecosystem points. You're not using Chase. You're not using Amex. You're not using Citi or Capital One. You're just using cash. Now, you use a credit card to pay with it, so maybe you can use some sort of indirect method. Like up until recently, you could use the 1.5 on the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, but we all know that's going away. Massive eye roll. Option number 3 is you can use a credit card portal. So, for example, you could use the Capital One portal, get 10 points per dollar if you have a Venture X card. You could use Chase portal, and maybe they'll have a points boost, but probably not. Unless you have the grandfathered CSR, then you'll be able to get 1.5 at least until those points run out in a couple years. So yeah, you can go through whatever portal is your favorite portal, and you might get some sort of uplift on that, depending on a variety of circumstances. And option 4 is AutoSlash. So if you don't know, there is a website called autoslash.com that I check, as far as I know, literally every time I rent a car. Maybe not every time, but 90% of the time I rent a car, And it's has two features. The first feature is pretty much similar to any other third-party portal where you put in your parameters. You do have to put in your email, but they don't spam you as far as I know. I've never been spammed. And then it'll email you a link to some offers, which are almost always Priceline. Not always, but almost always Priceline. And sometimes it's better than those third-party portals. And they have a backup plan, which is after you have a rental, you can enter it, and they will keep tracking it and try to beat the price. Auto Slash will have the same end result for payment as 1 and 2 in that you're not using your points directly because it's all through third-party portals and such. This is where we're going to spend most of our time today on the A step, assess, because the only way to assess is to go through each of these options, get lots of examples and lots of data points, and just let the chips fall where they may. The last two steps, the T and the H in path, tailor and harvest, go way faster. So we'll be spending most of our time here today. Catching up on comments here, Luke Points a Mile says, Yacht Rock is daily in my house. The musicians of that era were unreal talented. Once in your life, you'll find it. Someone who turns your life around. Christopher Cross is my spirit animal. Rex says, whatever helps you nap, brother. Kirk is Priceline. Okay. William Shatner. And then Luke also says, all those Yacht Rock musicians played in all the Thriller tracks. Interesting. I did not know that. All right. Back to the path method. Oop, put that comment away so it's not blocking the screen. 5, 4, 3. I need to do a little bit of a disclaimer here. Not so much a disclaimer, but just kind of setting the rules, the ground rules of what we're going to do. Number one is I'm going to choose the good level of car rentals or above. Now, everybody's going to have to choose what is a good car rental company to go with. We could spend an entire live stream just on that company. Like, oh, Enterprise sucks. Alamo's going to screw you. Thrifty is terrible. Budget's terrible. Avis gives you the wrong car. That literally happened to me. Hertz is going to send you to jail or make you go through the AI scanner. If you want to throw out some comments on that, that's fine. I don't know of any way to make that kind of subjective thing objective other than what I'm saying here. Here's a really low-level chart that I made, basically saying the three major groups that own rental cars. It's the National Enterprise Alamo Group, the Hertz Dollar Thrifty Group, and the Avis Budget Payless Group. This is the way I understand it as quality. Like, bottom of the barrel, you've got Thrifty and Payless, which don't even have rewards programs. These are just like, you know, who's the guy that Luke always says his kids are in the lounge annoying everyone? You have to be out there in the lounge with so-and-so's kids, whatever his name is. Everyone's going to yell it at me now. That's the company that he uses. He uses Thrifty and Payless. And then kind of that middle tier of quality, you've got Alamo, Dollar, and Budget. Not even middle. I think of this more like the generic but okay. I've had some good experiences with Dollar. I haven't done Budget in a long time. I had a good experience with Alamo. So they're okay, but you don't have much of a rewards program. And then the highest normal level is Enterprise, Hertz, and Avis. This is what I would call the good level. You have rewards programs in all of these. They all have programs where you can skip the counter and go directly to the lot and choose your car. And then there's a level above that, which is national. They're kind of all by themselves. Everyone always talks about how great national service is, but they're almost always so expensive that they never come into play. So I'm shooting for the good level above, the Enterprise, Hertz, Avis level. If you want to get some little tiny local car company like Green Advantage in Sweden or something like that, by all means, go for it. But just for the sake of keeping things even, I'm going to go with the Enterprise, Hertz, Avis level or higher for all of our examples today. I'll choose whatever the best of that level is. So I'm going to do some comparison shopping here. I'm going to give you 4 examples. And whatever's best among National Enterprise, Hertz, Avis, that's what I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose a car that is mid-size or bigger because I don't want to drive a compact economy or mini car if you're overseas. So it's always going to be at least mid-size. And I'm going to always leave at noon. So like, you know, on the polls, you have to choose when you're picking up just for the sake of making the comparisons fair. it's always going to be at noon. There we go. David helped me out. Adam's kids are out in the terminal, not in the lounge. Adam uses Thrifty and Payless. Thank you for clarifying that. And automatic transmissions. I'm always going to use an automatic transmission because I haven't driven a stick shift in about 25 years and I wasn't very good at it. All right, so let's do some direct versus one key versus auto slash versus portal examples. One key, of course, is the awards program for ExpediaHotels.com. You could do the same with Priceline, Kayak, Trivago, Orbitz. Orbitz was the one I was trying to think of earlier, etc. Just for the sake of ease, I'm going to stick with Expedia. I actually like their platform pretty well. My wife has the one key card as of now. Example number one, we're going to San Juan, Puerto Rico for 4 days. We're going to rent a car between November the 7th and 11th. That sounds familiar somehow. All right, well, let's just see what we got on our portals here. So Capital One portal said Avis is the best bet. They all said Avis is the best bet. Capital One is going to charge me $176. Chase is also going to charge me $176. Citi's going to be $2 more expensive at $178. And then Wells Fargo, what are you doing? $302? Wells Fargo was weird too because there was very few choices. Like, let's say these three had maybe 12 choices each. Wells Fargo had like 4 choices. So I don't know what's up with Wells Fargo, but don't use their portal. All right, let's take a look at the other ways of booking. If I book through Expedia, it was $169. If I book through AutoSlash, Hertz was the best option at $181. And if I book direct, Hertz was the best option, also at $181. So with each of these, I want you to go through in your mind, which one of these would you choose? Which one would you go with? When looking over the prices, there's not a ton of difference. I mean, the difference between the Capital One and Chase portal versus Expedia which is the cheapest of the non-portals, is only $7. $7, I'm probably not going to worry about it. So in this case, I would take the earnings. I would take the 10X on my Venture X card, and I would go with the Capital One portal. I might go with the Chase portal now while I still have 1.5. In fact, that's probably what I would do right now. But I'm looking down the road, like after we get past October and my ability to use 1.5 runs out. Is it possible that the Sapphire Reserve will give you points boosts on rental cars some of the time? Yeah, but I have a feeling it's not going to be the good rental car companies that you want, and I have a feeling it's going to be few and far between. So, as someone said earlier, I think it might have been my button-wearing friend from New York City, Dennis Dunn. Capital One portal is pretty good. The points boost, etc. It's all good. Catching up on comments here, we talked about Yacht Rock. Texas Dog likes Toto. David Williams says, finding the best deal in renting cars is hard with portals, insurance, many options, etc. That's what I'm trying to get through, and I will address all of those eventually. David and Background Balloon both know about Adam's kids. QC Man celebrates 17 months of membership. Celebrate. Time flies. Indeed it does. Thank you, Quality Control Man. Mike says, do using shopping portals make it harder if there's a problem on the reservation when renting cars? I've only ever done it through Capital One, and the 2 times I've done it, it flowed through to the app and the company. So like I booked through Capital One using Hertz or Enterprise, but when I pulled up my reservation in the app, it showed just fine. I didn't have to explain anything. So I don't think there'd be a problem, but if anybody has data points otherwise, let me know. I know back in COVID times when there was all sorts of problems in the industry, some people said they had issues. But I think much like with airlines, a lot of those problems were attributable specifically to the problems we had with COVID. Manuel says, price-wise, I've had good luck with Capital One. Yeah, a lot of people have told me that. All right, moving on here. Next up, Charlottesville, Virginia, airport code CHO, 3 days. We're going from April 18th through 21st, 2026. I think this is a Saturday through a Tuesday. Actual picture of me in Charlottesville, Virginia, or near Charlottesville, Virginia. That's the grave of former President James Madison leaning against a brick wall. There's the grave in the background. So I have actually done that. By the way, all of these trips are either places I've been or places I'm planning to go. Capital One says Enterprise is best, and they want $202. Chase also says Enterprise is best. They want $220, so they're upping it by $18. Citi comes in strong with Avis, only $198. Well, hey, good on Citi. And then Wells Fargo Portal, no results. It's sort of like when you're in an automobile race and you get DNF, did not finish. I don't know what the deal with Wells Fargo is. Charlottesville is a small airport. I mean, very small. It's smaller than Des Moines in my judgment. So maybe they just couldn't find any results there. If you don't go through the portal, you want to go with third party or direct. Expedia came in strong with Avis at $149. AutoSlash also picked up Avis at $149. And direct was Avis at $149. So makes sense. Now, in this case, first of all, this is not very expensive. I was also going to mention Puerto Rico wasn't that expensive. Makes me want to maybe get a car there. $200 for 4 days isn't too bad. But we're, at least $50 off between the best portal and here. So in this case, that's a quarter of the price. I think I would save my $50 and just book direct with Avis in this particular case. No need to go through anything else since the price is the same. What's your scorecard at home? Mine says 1 through the Capital One portal, 1 directly through Avis. Let's keep going. Next example. Now we're going overseas. We're going to Manchester, the United Kingdom. Hey, I've been there. Here's a picture of me standing right next to the train station at the Manchester airport. Even though it's an airport, we started out in York not having a rental car. So I took the train back to the Manchester airport, whence I then picked up a rental car because I knew I'd be flying out of that airport 4 days later. Let's say you're going June 8th through 12th. I believe that's a Monday through a Friday, 2026. Capital One portal said, let's do Enterprise at $464. Chase said, let's do Enterprise as well, $465, only $1 more. Citi said, hey, I'll beat you by $4, $460. So these three are all real close to each other. Wells Fargo kind of wets their pants again and wants to charge $503. So what it's looking like so far is I probably won't be using the Wells Fargo portal anytime soon. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm not using the US Bank portal, it's because with all the turmoil at US Bank, I just don't know what's going to happen right now. Am I going to be keeping my US Bank altitude reserve? Maybe their portal's great. I don't know. But until those questions are answered, we know who their transfer partners are. We know, will they let you send points from your Connect and Go over to your altitude reserve? Can you pool points? If you can't pool points, that'll be horrible, and I won't be able to use their portal. So until we have those questions answered, I really can't speak to US Bank and whether or not they should be included, which is why I'm skipping them for now. The reason I'm not doing American Express is because I almost never earn Amex points on everyday spend. Maybe you do. I've also seen examples where the Amex portal is really jacked up. So let me know if you think Amex portal is wonderful, but I just don't hear a lot of people speaking to benefits of using it. Seems like Capital One and Chase are the ones that people really like. Plus, with now Citi having American Airlines as a transfer partner, I wanted to get Citi in on the mix too. So in this case, of the portals, actually Citi wins by a very small margin, but at least they did win. Let's look at non-portal pricing. Expedia says I should do Enterprise at $411. AutoSlash recommended Avis at $438. And booking direct through Avis came in quite a bit less at $376. That kind of surprised me. So here we've got almost $90. What does that come out to? I think $88 between the direct and Capital One portal. Over $80 still, looking at the best portal of the city. So I'm going to save my $80. So what would you choose? I would stick with direct, and I would just go with Avis. So we've got 1 through the Capital One portal, 2 going direct in this particular case. Next example, fourth and final example, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This picture over here is actually from the Castleman River Bridge, which is way in the panhandle of Maryland, way in the far north, far west part of Maryland. But the closest major airport, I think, is Pittsburgh. At least that's how I got there. So even though the picture's from Maryland, I flew into the Pittsburgh airport in 21, 22, something like that, to go visit it. Let's say October 10th through 14th. Maybe you'll pick up some fall foliage. Looking at the portals, Capital One suggested Hertz. Well, they all suggested Hertz at $317. Chase is going to charge you $349. Citi is going to charge you $322. and Wells Fargo is going to charge you $296. What? Wells Fargo? So Wells Fargo didn't even finish once, wet the bed twice, but in this fourth example, somehow Wells Fargo has the best price. So I'm not sure what lesson I'm supposed to take from this other than just portals are weird. You know, it almost seems like random why one might give a better deal in one situation. So just check them all, I said. Remember at the beginning of the video today, or the beginning of the live stream, I said you can use a Chase card to pay in the Hertz portal. So maybe if you were really wanting a portal, you could use your Venture X or your CSR or your City Strata Premier to pay for Hertz through the Wells Fargo portal. But what if you go direct? Well, Expedia also says Hertz. Everyone says Hertz. 319. Auto Slash said 310. But booking direct with Hertz was only 236. Why is it so much lower? In fact, because it was so much lower, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they'd updated their pricing. So I went back and checked Capital One. I checked, I think, Citi and maybe Chase. I don't think I rechecked Wells Fargo. I rechecked Expedia to make sure I was right. Yeah, it's right. For some reason, booking direct with Hertz, the exact same car. It was a Kia that's relatively new. I don't remember what it's called. It's like a Z Kia 387J or something like that. It was at least midsize or higher. They all recommended the exact same car. For whatever reason, maybe Hertz has a special on that size right, at the Pittsburgh airport. Maybe for some reason someone made a mistake and at the Pittsburgh airport, Hertz ordered 50 of those cars by mistake. They've got to get them off the lot so they're not paying depreciation on it. Yeah, but obvious. This one's obvious. Going direct with Hertz wins hands down. Let me catch up on comments here briefly. Manuel says, price-wise, I've had good luck with Capital One. Yep, I already mentioned that. Sorry for the duplicate comment. Steve says, Chase is pretty easy canceling. Good prices, get good returns. I tried USAA, and they had a stiff cancellation fee. Okay, good to know that Chase is pretty easy at canceling. QC Man said, would you consider the Chase portal slightly more expensive since you'll get it at 1.5 in the portal now? For now, yes. So my understanding is up until October 27th, 26th, whatever it is, guaranteed at 1.5 no matter where the points come from, as long as you opened your CSR before version 2 came out, which I still have the original. Well, we just saw I paid my annual fee recently, so I get to test drive it until next summer. And then the way I understand it is any points that you earned prior to that October date, you still get to use them at 1.5. A question I would have for Chase is, what if it's points that I didn't earn on the CSR, I transferred in from like a Freedom or Freedom Flex or something like that? Maybe I should transfer all of my points and all of my wife's points to my CSR, actually. Write that down, or take a screenshot. I would recommend everyone do that. Move your points over to your CSR now if you have version 1. Balloon Background says, I'm too broke for Amex. Background Balloon. Nuracan says, I recently booked a 3-day rental for September in Edinburgh, Scotland, for $38 using the US Bank portal. The rental company is Europe Car. $38 total? Wow, that's pretty impressive. So maybe I do need to take another look at US Bank. Ian wants to know if I have a Venture X. Sure do. It's in my daily wallet. Jay Spana said, I'd choose Capital One and the price match. That's a good question. I know the price match applies to flights. Has anybody ever verified or preferably used price match on a rental car? That would be great. Now, you do have to price match within 24 hours, so we'd have to see how that goes. I probably should have thought of that before I did this video, because you're right. Like in the example on the screen right now, the way it should work is I could book it through the Capital One portal, since it's Hertz, at 317, call them up within 24 hours, say, hey, I have a screenshot here proving I can get this exact same rental through Hertz directly for 236, and then they should bring it down. I think what they do is they give you a portal coupon, which is not quite as good for the difference, but it's something. Has anybody ever actually done that with a rental car? If you had, please speak up, whether it's now in the live stream, make a comment, or if you're watching this after the fact, put a comment down below. Mike says, I've booked rentals through Delta Vacations a couple times the last couple years too. Great. I know the rewards master likes booking his hotels and rental cars through like airline platforms because he would rather pay slightly more and get the airline points, but based on the way he travels, that works out. Steve said, I'd transfer before October. I would too. Texas Dog says, I transfer my points to, let me try that again. Texas Dog says, I transfer my points to CSR from other UR cards monthly. Good idea. We're dropping in attendance. So apparently there's a lot of people that don't like rental cars. We're probably not going to get to 100 today. But if you're one of the diehards who love to nerd out on this stuff, please click the thumbs up button if you've not yet done so. Drop me a super sticker. Haven't seen any 99-cent super stickers yet, so I'd gladly take one of those. Just anything to drive the algorithm. And I'll make you the exact same offer that I made last week. Anybody who drops a contribution that shows on the screen as exactly $1.49, I think you have to use the cheeseburger super sticker or the poop emoji or something, I'll give you 1,000 Dugroz points. Manuel says, I always check Costco too. I asked someone, is it worth joining Costco just for rental cars? And they said, probably not. Does anybody else have an opinion on that? I live too far away from Costco to actually go there. QC Man says, yeah, I think if you transfer the points before that October date, they become grandfathered at 1.5 UR. So if you have a ton of stray points on Freedom cards, etc., definitely consolidate. Will do. Thank you. Hey, Siri. Set a reminder for tomorrow at 9:00 p.m. called Consolidate all of my Ultimate Rewards onto my Sapphire Reserve.
Okay, I added that for tomorrow 9 p.m.
Thanks. Good reminder, guys. See, teamwork. We work together to get that all figured out. Ian says, if you have the Venture X, why don't you just always book a midsize when booking with Hertz so that you can pick whatever you want in the President's aisle? If the price is there, I'm willing to. Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer here. Nobody's really thrown out any comments bashing a rental car company. I would take those. Hertz has the new thing where you, if you're at a major airport, at least you drive through the tunnel of artificial intelligence. And, you know, rumors are like if you have a dent the size of a dime, they will say, oh, look, you caused damage. Now, please pay us $900. Now, if you pay within the next 24 hours, we'll knock that down to $600. That is scummy, and I don't like that. So I'm kind of boycotting Hertz at the moment. There could come a point where I get more data points where I change my mind on that. I'm actually thinking in the long run, if it's done in good faith, I might actually like the rental car thing. Excuse me, the AI rental car tunnel thing, because I'm super careful as a driver. So if it was like you drive through a tunnel on the way out and you drive through a tunnel on the way back in and it knows if you got dents or not, if it works properly, I'm actually okay with that. The problem is we're hearing all these stories about it not working properly. But some people have said, hey, if you're using a CSR or a Venture X, you got primary anyway. It's just a little hassle. Maybe all the rental car companies will start punching back on Hertz once they get all these claims for, you know, a dent the size of a dime. I don't know why. I guess I have random coins on my counter here. Let's show them. Would you charge me for a dent the size of a $50? No, that's not a $50. That's $1. That's an old Eisenhower dollar. Would you charge me for a dent this big? Would you charge me for a dent the size of a JFK $50? Would you charge me for a George Washington quarter-size dent? Would you charge me for an FDR-sized dime dent? Sorry, that was super nerdy. I like coins. Not spending, but just for looking at collecting. All right, catching up on comments some more here. Xavier X salutes just to drive the algorithm. Mike Newland does it. He drops a super sticker for 99 cents, boosting that algorithm. Celebrate, celebrate. Already super generous, now even more generous. Xavier did as well. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Xavier. I really appreciate that. Rex says a full-size Suburban at Honolulu Avis First, $512 for 5 days. Everyone elsewise was $700 to $950. My observation is it seems like rental car companies, the way their algorithms must work is they give specials because have you ever gone to a rental car island, like at an airport, where you either have to go to a certain part of the terminal or you take a shuttle and it's like, there's Hertz, there's Avis, there's National, there's Budget, there's Freddie's rental car company. and everyone is in the same line. They're either all at Hertz or all at Enterprise or all at Avis. It's because I think the way their algorithms work, there's one company that always comes out ahead, like the one on the screen here at Pittsburgh. It's always Hertz. So everybody's renting the same company. I get it too. I like price, but maybe you should always go for like, let's say in this example, you could get Enterprise for like $5 more. Get Enterprise just so that the line is shorter. Now, if it's a big enough airport that has skipped the line, I don't remember if Pittsburgh did or not, that's worth doing. So like Las Vegas, I was able to skip the line and go directly to the Hertz booth. I've been able to do that other places too. I'm trying to think of other places I've done that. None come to mind right now. They don't really have that in the United Kingdom based on my 2 data points. So I just had to wait in line, even though I had President's Circle status. Like the Charlottesville, Virginia airport is so small, there is no skip the line. It's literally like baggage claim, take 20 steps. There's the rental car counter. They hand you a key and say, around the corner, 3rd car on the left. And like you walk 100 yards and it's right there. Texas Dog says, thanks, Doug. Now my Siri is talking back to me. Well, if it set the exact same reminder, that's helpful for you. Ian drops a super sticker for 99 cents. Celebrate. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate your support. QC Man says, I'm sure that UR point consolidation will be a Dugroz data point next week. It better be. Sleepy Rod says, there's no way the AI thing with Hertz will not be used to squeeze money out of it. I'm also ditching Hertz. Yeah, I'm boycotting them for a while, and we'll just see how it goes. QC Man also drops a $1.99 super sticker. Celebrate. Thank you for hanging in there, the 52 of you who are. Ian says, another Saturday driving to the Cape to cook for the rich while listening to Doug. Cape Cod, though, not Cape Canaveral. Cape Cod, that's in Massachusetts. I find it funny. In my line of work, I talk to a lot of people on the phone, and they have to say their address sometimes. Some places they use the state abbreviation. Like if you're calling Missouri, they might say 123 Main Street, Jefferson City, MO 12345. Or they'll just say Missouri. Or Iowa, they might say Des Moines, IA 50309. But in Massachusetts, they always say Mass, no matter what. Like, all right, can you confirm your address? 784 Walnut Street, Springfield, Mass. 03298. It's always Mass. It's never MA. It's never Massachusetts. MR says the ability to skip the counter altogether and just grab your car should definitely be a factor when considering price as well. I agree with you 100%. Like I said, I was trying to find a way to objectify this for the purpose of knowing which card to use and portal versus direct. So I'm going through all these examples, but by all means, like, in the example showing on the screen here, I'm not saying you have to go with Hertz, or maybe if I go back a couple here, I'm not saying you have to go with Avis. Maybe you like Enterprise, so that's a better fit. So you book Enterprise over here, maybe here, and do the price match to Expedia. That's totally fine. But for the purposes of this video, where I just needed some data points to know portal versus direct, I think I got the job done. All right, let's continue on here. 5, 4, 3. Oops, forgot that. Moving on. All right, so what are my conclusions here? 4 data points isn't a lot, but it took me like an hour and a half to 2 hours just to do those 4 illustrations, because you have to go to every single portal, every single place. You have to send the email to AutoSlash, so it takes a while. So it's not enough data points. I would love to do it with about 20 to 30 data points, but we're going to have to settle for 4. Out of the first 4 searches, I would have used Capital One time, which was 25% of the time, which means Cash Direct or Expedia, AutoSlash, etc. 3 out of the 4 times. Now, I mentioned earlier, I didn't think about this till somebody made the comment. I don't remember who it was, but hat tip to you. Why not just use the Capital One portal every time and do price match? Again, has anybody actually done that successfully? I'm not going to get into details on that, but if I can find out with certainty that that works, then that's what I'm going to do from now on. So here's my tentative plan for rental cars. If it's fairly close in price, within no more than 10% of the lowest price, I'll just use the Capital One portal. Because if you think about it this way, if you're earning 10 points per dollars on rental cars with your Venture X, that offsets the 10% price difference. Let me go back and make a comment here. You're always going to use your Capital One points for at least a penny each. So worst case scenario, you do the travel eraser, but sometimes you'll use it for transfer partners and get more than a penny each. So it might be better than 10%. Like let's say you get 2 cents per point. Well, then really it's almost like a 20% advantage over the second closest point. I'm not going to use the city portal due to the fact that the city Strata Premier, am I saying that right? The $99 card is the Premier, right? The Prestige is the grandfathered one. The Elite is the new one that does City Nights. City Nights. Have you ever seen those City Nights? Glenn Campbell, everyone. So I'm not going to use Wells Fargo. I'm not going to use Citi because their cards provide secondary car rental coverage. Yes, I could go all the way up to the Strata Elite. I'm not going to get a $700 or $600 annual fee card just for this one super niche use case. I'm just going to roll with what I have, and I'll explain that in just a little bit here. If I do this in the Capital One portal, it'll get me 10x on my Venture X, as we've already discussed. And as I already mentioned, this is worth at least 1 cent per point. It's probably worth more than 1 cent per point because you're going to use your transfer partners some of the time. But hold up. I made this graphic representing a guy from the area around Eugene, Oregon. And AI is not good at words. So instead of hold up, it says Honda up. Honda up, man. Honda up. Hold up. Which card do I use for booking the rental if it's non-portal? And I threw out a few options here. We've got Hilton Honors, which is the Surpass card. That represents any Amex. We've got my Wells Fargo Autograph. We've got the City Strata Premier. We've got the aforementioned Capital One Venture X. We've got the Sapphire Reserve. So which card do I use? There's a lot of factors. Honda up some more. Is primary collision damage waiver important? Well, I went and did a little looking. I got at least one data point. This is the data point from the last example we had in Pittsburgh, where I paid Hertz directly at $236 for the entire 4-day rental. If I bought the lowest of the collision damage waivers directly from Hertz, it would have been $42 a day. There's one that's like, $1 million of life insurance along with it. There's one with like $1 million of life insurance plus liability coverage. Then there's one where it's like, I have my own liability coverage. I just want the collision damage waiver and like scratches and dents and that kind of stuff. That cheapest one was $42 a day. So if I take that times 4, it's $168. So basically you're paying 71% above and beyond the actual rental car price to buy primary collision damage waiver directly from the company. I know I've seen some people on Discord say things like, and I respect this viewpoint. Even I saw Stan the Credit Frog said it once. Spathco said it once. And I like both of those guys. Like there are times I'm just going to pay, for the collision damage waiver, especially if it's only a day, something like that. Just because if I get in a wreck, I don't want to deal with it. I want to hand them the cars and say, well, sucks to be you. I dented it and not have to worry about claim filings. I appreciate that, but I'm way too cheap to pay 71% extra. So if it's any length of time, like 3 days or more, I'm not buying it from Hertz or Avis or Enterprise. So I would strongly prefer not to file with my personal insurance. So I really don't want to rely on secondary coverage. I'm already paying enough as is. I have 2 teenage boys. I don't need to pay even more for my car insurance. So yes, hippie man from Eugene, Oregon, primary collision damage waiver is important. Let me see if there's any comments I need to catch up on here while we're looking at all this. Already got that. Mike Newland donated 1 more Dugroz membership, triggering the algorithm. We went from 50 something up to 60 something. That's great. Celebrate. Thank you so much for your patronage, Mike. I really appreciate it. YouTube experiment, just got off work, driving home. Well, make sure you listen. Don't look at the screen. Thanks for being here, though. D Green says Capital One's website lists price match available for flights, hotels, and car rentals. Okay, that's a good data point. Not a data point, but at least good data. I appreciate that. Haven't tried to price match a rental car myself, though. Maybe I need to try it just to see what happens. I wonder if I can get a refundable car, apply the price match just to show that it works, and then cancel before I need it, and they'll, peel back. Or maybe I can try it in San Juan. We'll find that. Just for you guys, I'll use some of my money that I've been gifted for that. Maybe. I'll at least strongly consider it. All right, moving along here with the video. 5, 4, 3. Honda up what not to use. So what cards do I not want to use for my rental car insurance, even though rental car bookings, even though it might seem like a good choice? The US Bank Altitude Reserve, it was great. I mean, it was hands down the best rental car card ever. And if I'm doing a rental car between now and December, maybe it's a great choice, but I just have this feeling it's not going to be in the near future. Some people would say, and this is a valid argument, if you're just switching from 1.5 cents to 1 cent per point, it's still a 3% back credit card. Why not make this your rental car card? Between now and, December, whatever, sure, I can see that. The problem is it used to have this great synergy where you earned points on the booking, you earned 1.5 cents per point functionally, you got to use it on the same booking, you got to use your real-time rewards, and now that's gone, or at least as of December will be gone, because I'm not going to get a statement. I'm going to, or I guess real-time rewards I will be able to use, but only at 1 cent per point. Okay, whoopee. My, is it $300 or $375? $325 credit is no longer something I can use on the same rental. I have to use it as a coupon. So it's just not as good as it used to be. How about the Chase Sapphire Reserve? I'm probably not keeping it after next summer. Plus, once we get past October, I'm only going to earn 1x. Not a hugely big deal, but all the things that made it great are going away. So both of these cards, the Altitude Reserve and the CSR, I've got somewhere between 3 months and a year, maybe a year and a half on the CSR before I run out of points. But that's not a long-term strategy. So I'm trying to think of long-term what card is best. How about the Wells Fargo Autograph? What about the Strata Premier? What about the Chase Aeroplan card? All of those are secondary, at least domestically they are. And I just said on the previous screen, I don't want secondary. So what about Amex? Honda up. What about Amex? I know Cesar, Joel, and others have said, well, there's this thing. I know you can add premium rental insurance for about $22 per rental. But none of my Amex cards give more than 2x on rental cars. So at the bottom of the screen are all of my Amex cards that might apply. I also have a business screen, but that's not going to do jack. The Blue Cash Every Day doesn't give anything on travel or rental cards. The Hilton Honors doesn't give anything on rental cars. My Amex Blue Business Plus would give 2x because it gives it on everything. But am I going to have an issue where it's like, oh, were you really renting for business if I get in an accident? And this is probably the even bigger point. I'm not going to add an Amex green card just to rent a car 2 to 4 times per year. And I think on the next screen, I'll show how there is this law of diminishing returns. I'm not spending enough on rental cars to worry about it that much. So hold up. Which card do I use? Well, you'll see he's holding the Venture X. I guess the Venture X wins by default. It's the only card that I have right now that's not getting a major nerf on this sort of topic that has primary rental car collision damage waiver everywhere. So whether portal or direct, either way, you'll have primary collision damage waiver with the Venture X. And an extra 1x is nice. I could, move to get an Amex green or something like that. But is it that big of a deal to go from 2% to 3%? Let's use an example. Let's say I spend on average $300 on car rentals, and you can see from the examples I did, it's usually not even that much. But let's just say $300, and I rent 4 times a year. That's $1,200. For an extra 1 point per dollar, that's an extra $1,200. Excuse me, 1,200 points. I wish it was 1,200 bucks. That's an extra 1,200 points. Is an extra 1,200 points per year, which is about $12 if you think penny points. Could be worth more, maybe $24.02 per point. Is that worth getting or using a different 3X card? No. So yeah, maybe the Venture X doesn't have the greatest earnings, but I'm not going to worry about getting the greatest earnings for $12 a year. You don't earn points by paying for travel. I mean, you do, but I'm going to earn lots of points for paying for my travel isn't really a strategy. You earn your points on normal stuff like gas, groceries, dining, going to Walmart, that kind of stuff. You don't, if you're like me at least, I'm not traveling for work. No one's reimbursing me. So my 4 RIP trips a year is not where I earn points. Trips are for redeeming points, not earning points. But I'm willing to change if anyone has a suggestion that I'm not thinking of how to get primary collision damage waiver without completely rearranging my wallet. If somebody knows or has a different suggestion, I'm all ears. All right, I'm going to catch up on comments now. Steve says the $325 still works for now, going through USBR credit. Yep. So like even between now and December, like if I'm using it in Puerto Rico, I could do it that way. QCM helped me think of what I was trying to think of. Yep. E&M says, which fast food brand has the best burger and which one has the best French fries? Can you remind me to come back to that later when we get our regular questions? Rex says, I've been using the Ritz-Carlton for rentals for years. That's a good point. And I'm taking the path to the Ritz-Carlton mainly for the insurance protections. But if I do get the Ritz-Carlton, and who knows, more than a year from now when I have it, will it be nerfed? But let's say it's relatively the same. I'm not doing it to earn those lucrative Marriott points. I mean, the earnings aren't very exciting. But if I'm renting, $1,200 a year, I'd rather have the perks and the protections. David William asks, does the CSP have primary collision damage waiver? It does, so I could use that also. That's actually a pretty good choice. I don't know if my wife will still have a CSP a year from now. I don't know if I'm going to downgrade my CSR to a CSP. There's rumors about annual fee increase, so I think that's a good choice if we assume it's going to stay the same. People talk about burgers. We can come back to that if you want. Thank you for continuing to support. Nobody's done the $1.49 super sticker challenge yet. Next. All right, so I've done the A in path. Now we got to move on to the T. A was the longest section by far. Tailor. So I have to figure out how to tailor my point earning, and point earning could also be cash back earning, to my spend for this. Well, what have we learned? The bottom line is there really isn't a way to use points directly for rental cars. Yes, at least for the time being, you can get 1.5 in the Chase portal, 1.25 if you have the CSP, the OG version of the CSP. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. There's going to be points boosts, but will rental cars have points boosts? Will it be good ones? I'm skeptical. I still don't know why some company doesn't make Hertz or Enterprise or Avis an actual transfer partner. There's one airline card. I don't remember which one it is. Is it one of the Deltas that gives you like $200 worth of credits at Avis's every year? Why doesn't Amex make Avis a transfer partner? You have to figure out what the ratios are. It almost certainly won't be 1-to-1. It'd be 1-to-3 or 1-to-12 or something like that. But at least as of right now, nobody wants to be a transfer partner with a rental car company. One thing Frequent Miler said last week that I took to heart was the rewards programs for rental cars are usually not enough to take it into consideration. So usually I just shop on some combination of price and who's going to not send me to who's not going to send me through the AR scanner, customer service, those kind of things. I've never had a bad experience with Hertz, but those stories out there do scare me. And I've had multiple bad experiences with Avis. Something like 5 rentals in a row, 3 out of the 5 had something go majorly wrong. So right now, I guess I'm a fan of Enterprise and National by default until Hertz gets their acts together, figure out what's going on. I really hope Hertz loses a ton of business so they have to change what they're doing. Regardless, there's not a way to transfer points from Chase or Capital One over to Hertz or Avis. Even my Aeroplan pay yourself back trick doesn't work within the United States because I would have to pay for it with that Aeroplan card, and that would give me secondary car insurance. And I just talked about all the reasons why I don't want secondary. Now, outside of the United States, it's a great option. So I did use my Aeroplan card in Manchester, England there. And if I go overseas again or go to Canada or Puerto Rico is part of the United States. That doesn't count. If I go to the Dominican Republic and rent a car, I probably will use my Aeroplan card. But again, most of my travel, probably 90% of my travel, will be domestic in the next 2 or 3 years. Chase 1.5 portal is dying, so our options are starting to go away, and I'm looking down the road. I want to think like what'll work for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So it's probably obvious, isn't it? I need cash. If I'm going to get this to work, I got to earn cash on my credit cards. So more on tailoring my earning to my spend. Now, remember, I have 3 other goals too. Are they the same? Are they similar? I already did Hilton, my first goal, and I did boutique hotels. What I found out is, I probably need to earn cash back on those also, because with Hilton, the best way to get points is to buy them when they're on sale for 0.5 cent each. And with boutique hotels, cash is the way to go too. I don't think something like Expedia as a loyalty program is really worth doing. You might do it just because they're cheapest, but not because they have a loyalty program. So far, those are the cheapest. And then, I don't know how cheap domestic flights is going to go. So we'll have to wait and see when I get to that 4th one. But are they the same or at least similar? Yeah, so far, it's looking like cash is the way to go. So here's the question I have to ask myself. Am I heading towards all cash back for regular spend? And you'll see I threw out some examples at the bottom. The Capital One Saver card, the PayPal Cashback debit card, Citi Strata Premier, which I don't have, but I could product change to very easily, and the Wells Fargo Autograph. For Hilton, buying points at boutique hotels, those were both booked most easily by earning cash. And no or low annual fee cards that earn cash or points are becoming appealing, more and more appealing because of flexibility. So like if I had a saver card, which I don't, but if I did, I could earn 3x on dining and groceries, both domestically and overseas. And then I would have a choice. I could either move that over to my Venture X and I have points, or I could just cash it out and I've earned 3% cash back. Obviously, PayPal cash back is just cash back. But same thing with the Citi Strata Premier, the Wells Fargo Autograph. If I earn 3x, I can turn those into cash back. With Wells Fargo, it's real easy. With Citi, you have to make sure you have like a custom cash or a double cash or something like that to have the cash out option, because if you only have a Strata Premier and you go to cash out, you're going to get 0.8 cents per point. We don't want that. But as long as you have a double cash, custom cash, something along those lines. So am I headed down this path? I did a video a 1.5 years ago where I did an experiment about cash back for travel, and I declared that I was failing on that because I just hadn't found a good enough way to use cash back. But I think A, I've gotten a little bit better. B, because of just current trends in the world of credit cards, my options are becoming more and more compressed. US Bank's Altitude Reserve has taken away some of my options. The changes to the CSR has taken away some of my options, at least long run. Man, that 1.5 portal, I just loved having that as a fallback option, because you knew worst case scenario, I'm getting 1.5, unless they jack up the price, which obviously they did in certain cases. And then the other question is, does this support leaning into Citi even more? Well, I'm going to talk about that a little more in a second, but it's kind of looking that way. Comment time, catching up on comments here. Sleepy Rod says, the Venture X constantly gets additional multipliers through Capital One offers for Avis, Sixt, and Budget. That's a good thing to keep in mind. QC Man says, you need cash now? Call JG Wentworth. 877 cash now. 877 cash now. 877 cash now. Was it 877 or 866? I think it was 877. Tom DeCase says, I rented a car in Annecy, France via the US Bank portal with Europe Car. I was able to status match national to Europe Car, add number, and I got an upgrade and was with matching status adding to portal rental. Oh, okay. So apparently it flowed through from the portal to Europe Car. It's good to know that's an option. Well, maybe we're all sleeping on the US Bank portal. Worst case scenario, just check them in addition to Wells Fargo and Citi and all the others. And then you can pay for it with your Venture X. Something like that. Or maybe you want to earn, points and pay with your Altitude Reserve. But you can definitely use the US Bank portal. Rex says, I was all cash lately with Bank of America Premium and US Bank until Citi brought us the AA transfer option. Tuck that away, because I'm going to reference that in just a few minutes. Happy Tom says, cautionary note, reputable car companies may have unreputable international affiliates. Oh, do you have an example? Like, does Hertz own a company or is affiliated with a company in Italy called hey, it's a car, where the sign out front says Hertz, but it's really, it's a car in the background and they don't have good customer service? Tiger Maple Apps, have any plans to obtain the Strata Elite? Nope, I don't. At least not right now. If I do, it'll just be for a one-time sign-up bonus. If you go back and watch my video from 2 weeks ago, it was called, Is City Getting Good Now? Or is the City Strata Premier finally good? And really makes me want to get the Strata Premier, which I already have a Strata, so I could product change that very easily. Continuing on here, 5, 4, 3. So thinking more about, am I heading towards all cash back for regular spend? Some people say something like this: luxury cards are for perks and redemptions, but low or no annual fee cards are for earnings. And when I say low or no annual fee, I'm talking that like, $99, $95 and less range. It's kind of shaping up like that's maybe what the situation is here as we think about this a little more. The question is, are they right? At least in my use case. Let's look at some figures and figure that out. And to do that, we have to shift to the last part of the path acrostic, harvest. Harvest means I have to actually earn the points. I'm actually breaking out my cards and cutting down sheaves of wheat with them, figuratively. You could try it literally. I can't really fully harvest until I know what my final goal is for domestic flights and what that requires. But it's sure looking like a whole lot of cash back and or city points. I did some math 2 weeks ago showing, maybe city's the way to go for my everyday spend moving forward, and I can do it all with a $95 annual fee. In episodes 1 and 2 of this Path program, I devoted cash back to the following. So what I said is, for the sake of Hilton and boutique hotels, I'm going to earn cash back on dining, and I'm going to get 5% on that. And what I do is I use my PayPal debit card for that. Actually, I'm kind of liking that because it helps keep me accountable for budgeting too. Amazon, 5%. That would be the Amazon Prime Visa, which I could either get the consumer version through Chase or the business version through Amex. Either way, I used to have it. I canceled that card. Kind of regretting canceling it, although I do think it helped me get some other Chase cards. So maybe I'm not regretting it, but hopefully I can get back on board and get that Amazon card sometime. I think that's one where they probably would approve you even if you're over 524, especially if you're barely over 524. So 5% on dining gets me $250 a year. 5% on Amazon gets me $200 a year. By the way, this is my approximate actual real life budget. Maybe not exactly, but give or take about $10,000 how I spend my money. Oversimplified, sure, but it's the one I always use for illustration purposes. I said I could earn cash back on Walmart because that's where we buy most of our groceries, toiletries, reams of paper, toothbrushes, those kind of things. Maybe another $200 there. Maybe about half of my everything else, which would earn me half of $500. So maybe another $250 there. And then utilities, obviously, I'm going to use my U.S. Bank Cash Plus card, which I've used for years now. Another $200. So that's what I said coming into this episode. Now, again, 2 weeks ago, I asked this question: did the City Strata Premier get good this week? I asked it 2 weeks ago, but that's the question. Did the City Strata Premier get good? And the logic there was twofold. One is they added American Airlines, which I calculated with a little bit of cherry picking, even on domestic. I can average about 2.5 cents per point on American, which is pretty awesome. And secondly, the kinks related to booking I prefer hotels seem to start to be worked out. So if I like boutique hotels, maybe some of them are I prefer. Probably not a lot because they're a little more on the pricey side, but I do like that idea. You still retain choice hotels at a 1-to-2 ratio. So if I earn 2% back everywhere on like a City double cash, move it over my Strata Premier, and then transfer it, I'm getting 4 choice points. These seem like pretty good options. And as long as I keep a double cash or a custom cash, I can always cash out, worst case scenario. So yeah, I think it is getting good. And another question is, do I need a double cash? I don't have one last year, and I groused about how they wouldn't approve me for one, but it's been long enough, and I'm under 524, and I wonder if I try again. I was thinking last time I did a Path episode, this was back in like May and June, I'll just get the Robinhood Gold card. Well, a couple things have come up. One is I went on the wait list, and I'm still on the wait list, so it's not even an option right now. Secondly, would a double cash just be a better fit for me? Because if I'm saying, yeah, the Robinhood gets 3x in cash back, but a double cash can be moved indirectly over to American. And if I'm averaging 2.25 cents per point, I think I said 2.5 earlier. Let's be more conservative, say 2.25 times 2. That's 4.5 cash back equivalent. So if I'm going to use it towards American or Choice or Preferred Hotels or something like that, a double cash probably beats a Robinhood Gold. And I'm only giving up like maybe $100 a year in flexibility. And that's one less issuer. I don't even remember who issues the Robinhood Gold, but I don't really want a whole nother issuer. So maybe the double cash is actually a better choice. What about my 2 city custom caches? Psst, they're just for special projects. So I know you might think something like, well, Doug, take that dining spend and put it on a custom cache. It'd be even better. So I'm thinking every month I'm going to do something kind of special with my custom caches moving forward. I'll admit I do engage in a little bit of shenanigans now and then. Gift card buying, manufactured spending, whatever you want to call it. So it's either going to be gift card buying, which could be a form of manufactured spending. It could be gift card buying, which is not manufactured spending, but is strategic spending. Like maybe I go to a hardware store and buy, I don't know, I have to get a bunch of graduation presents. So I buy a bunch of random gift cards and spend them on other things, Burger King, Red Lobster, etc. Maybe I would do that. Or maybe there's just a one-time special project, like I want to buy a new lawnmower and it costs just a little over $500, like $507. So I'm going to go to Menards and put it on my custom cache and earn 5x. It's just kind of a one-time thing out of my savings account. It's not part of my budget per se. It's money I've either saved, I'm being strategic with, it's gift, it's church giving, it's manufactured spending. So that's why I'm not showing custom caches. Is one is simplicity. 2, they're going to get used. I may not max them out, but they're going to get used, but it's going to be for special projects, not for daily spend. Catching up on comments here. Already asked that. YouTube Experiment says, by the way, I'm home. Great. Glad you got there safely. Thanks for letting me know. That's what your dad would have said. And also, last time I rented a car was with Chase, the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Now primary CW doesn't work for New York residents that have car insurance. Go figure. Yeah, and I haven't really figured out. I know Nick from Frequent Miler spoke to this because he lives in the area around Albany, New York. There's something about a state law, but other issuers haven't done that. So I'm wondering if there's different interpretations of the state law. Matt Clausen tried to explain it to me once. I don't really understand it. It was something like, if you have a car and you own car insurance, New York passed a law that says you have to provide primary, you have to cover rental cars. So the way Chase interpreted that is, then we just won't provide any primary for New York residents. Spathco said, like Minnesota, North Dakota, and 3 or 4 other states have some weird state law similar that makes primary collision damage on a credit card pointless. I don't know the details. If you're in one of those states, let me know. That's why he sometimes just buys it directly from the rental car company. QC Man says, strategery. That's what my custom caches are getting. I know what you're referencing. There was a Saturday Night Live skit with Al Gore debating George W. Bush prior to the 2020 election. Excuse me, the 2000 election. And the moderator said, I want each of you to summarize your campaign in one word. And Al Gore said, lockbox. And Will Ferrell, as George W. Bush, said, strategery. So yes, I am going to use strategery on my CCCs. Thank you for understanding that. All right, so moving on. Here are some tweaks and further clarifications that I'm going to make as it relates to my everyday spend and how I'm going to harvest rewards now that I've done this project and determined I need some combination of lots of cash and city. So the first two categories, dining and Amazon, will stay exactly the way they are right now. I'll keep using cashback cards at 5%. Gas is going to be devoted to Wyndham. So one of the episodes I did an excursus on Wyndham, and there's like a subcategory within boutique hotels, which is Vacasas and cottages.com. And I decided that although it doesn't work every time and they're not in every place, there are some really good options. In fact, I was just seeing some really good ones around like Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. There was a really good one I spotted in Wisconsin. I had this idea in my head, since there's only like 50 or 60 of us on board, we'll just keep this a secret between all of us. I thought about doing a last minute Dugroz reports meetup in October, and I would call it the end of fun, because there's this one really weird Vacasa in central Wisconsin called the 12th Avenue Fun Zone, where somebody bought like a machine shed and converted it into a place that has like a basketball hoop and like skee ball tables and air hockey and like tables for board games. And we'd get a bunch of us nerds together and go there. And since there's only one bed, it counts as one bedroom. They're pulling that listing off of Vacasa on like October 18th. So on the very last weekend, I thought about going there and calling it the end of fun get together, since it's the very last time you can book the fun zone. But then I thought to myself, if I'm going to get a Vacasa, there's other things I would rather do. So if somebody else wants to organize that, send me a private message. I'll definitely get you all the details, and I'll try my best to go. I just don't want to fund it out of my own points. I digress. So I still want to have some Wyndham earnings, 32,000 Wyndham points per year based on my gas budget. I decided to make City green. I don't know why, but it just seems to me like of all the ecosystems, like, you know, Amex is silver, Chase is blue, Capital One is like a different shade of blue, and City is green. Maybe it's because of the way the double cash has a lot of green on it. I don't know. City is green. So I'd get 20,000 City points from Walmart every year. I'd get 9,000 from grocery every year. So obviously I'd be using a double cash here. I would be using the City Strata Premier here, which is 3x on grocery. Telecom would be 5% using the Chase Inc. cash. And we can think of that as $100 worth of cash back. I know I can use it for Chase, but seems like I'm kind of stepping away from Chase, aren't I? As it becomes harder and harder to do Chase. Maybe I'll come back to that a little bit later. Somebody can ask me about it. 2x on the double cash on everything else gets you 50,000 City points. And then utilities, I'm still going to use my cash back card over at US Bank, the Cash Plus. And that's $200 of cash back. So if I commit to that, I've got three things: Wyndham, cash back, and City. This would have me yielding the following. I would pull in $750 in cash back every year. I would pull in 32,000 Wyndham points every year, which would be enough for a basic Wyndham cabin, one bedroom is $13,500 per night. That'd be enough for 2.4 Wyndham nights a year, Vacasa nights a year. And then 79,000 City points per year, which if you cash it out, it's worth $790. But obviously, you'd have the flexibility to cash it out or use it for American or Preferred Hotels or Choice or whatever. In fact, I think City's a transfer partner of Wyndham. So if they have a transfer bonus, I could increase that Wyndham stash. So $750 cash back, 32,000 Wyndham points, 79,000 City points. And just remember, this is only from everyday spend. We all know sign-up bonuses are really awesome. But in terms of how to maximize my everyday spend, this is very simple, and I'm kind of liking it. I feel good about this. I still got to figure out or at least prove to myself that this strategy also works for cheap domestic flights. But what do you guys think? Now, that's not the last slide, but we're starting to get close to the end. All right, so that's it. Simple. It's not hard. We've got three things: cashback, City, Wyndham. That's it. Simple. Keep it simple, stupid. So if I went ahead with this, my setup would look like this. To earn the city points, I have the City Strata Premier, which gets me 3x on dining, grocery, and gas. Now, I have a better way of earning dining and gas, so I'm not going to do that. But for my small amount of real grocery spend, I mention often we buy most of our groceries at Walmart. But if we're going to Aldi, if we're going to Hy-Vee, if we're going to Fairway, we do that sometimes. If I was out of state, went to Ralph's or Winn-Dixie or something like that, I would use my City Strata Premier. Not outside the U.S., though. Too many fraud alerts. PayPal debit card would pick up dining. Amazon card would pick up Amazon. Chase Ink Business Cash would pick up my Staples and Office Depot and anything telecom like cell phone bills, cable and internet, that kind of stuff. Even if I don't end up keeping Chase as a long run strategy, that's a good card to have just as a cash back card. US Bank Cash Plus will keep doing what it always does and give me 5% back on utilities and gym memberships, although we don't pay a lot in gym memberships, so I didn't break it out as a whole separate category. Wyndham Earner Business pays for all the gas purchases. And remember, gas is more than just gas. I really like Casey's Pizza. I like chicken tenders at Quick Star. And the City Double Cash picks up everything else. The reason why you see the Capital One Duo down here in the corner is because the Capital One Saver, the Capital One Venture X would be the cards I would use when traveling or to book the rental cars. So I wouldn't keep them as like my daily drivers, but I would have the Duo when I'm actually hitting the road. I joked around during the data points segment about how City made a travel card that doesn't like it when you travel. Both from things I've seen online, and I have experience with a close friend who has had all kinds of problems with fraud alerts and shutdowns with City when traveling internationally. So I would not use my City cards outside the United States. First of all, I don't think the Double Cash even has no foreign transaction fees. But yeah, I would not. I don't even know that I would use them traveling domestically. Like if I go to West Virginia or Florida, I'm probably going to use these two guys here. But like here around home, the greater Des Moines area, I would use this setup right here. And then if you want to know a little more detail, not detail, but just as a reminder, this is to earn points towards Hilton's, non-chain lodging, and rental cars, and maybe towards flexible domestic flights. I like City because I could send it over to American Airlines if I want to, or I could cash it out and use it for some other airline if needed. Plus, I'll be earning some transferable points, so maybe it would look like, let's see, what's another way I could use City points to book a domestic carrier? I could transfer my City points to KLM and Air France Flying Blue and then use that to book a Delta flight. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Is City a transfer partner with Aeroplan? I can't remember. If so, I could move the points to Aeroplan, use that to book a United flight, that kind of thing. So we've got some backdoor arbitrage options. Yeah. So moving on. This is what my actual wallet would look like. WIMW is what's in my wallet. In terms of the actual cards I carry around, it would just be 4 cards. Isn't that nice and simple? So there's not a lot of decision making to make. If I was to make, I wanted to make a little decision tree, but I ran out of time to do it this morning. Question number 1, is this dining? If yes, use your PayPal debit card. Question number 2, is this a gas station? If it is, use your Wyndham Earner business card. Question number 3, is this a grocery store, like an actual Fairway, Hy-Vee type grocery store, Winn-Dixie, etc.? If it is, use the City Strata Premier. Did you accidentally forget one of these 2 cards and you need gas or dining? Use your City Strata Premier. Otherwise, anything else, use your Double Cash or just go around in a circle. It's a very simple decision tree. So that would be a very easy wallet to carry around. 4 credit cards, no big deal. I could make my wife an authorized user on my Double Cash and say, here, honey, just use this for everything. She doesn't dine out enough that it's a big deal. I might make her a, not authorized user, but whatever they call it, like business collaborator on a Wyndham card. So she has basically, if it's a gas station, use this, anything else, use this. Yeah, that's about it. Or I could make her an authorized user here and say, hey, if it's gas, grocery, or dining, use this. Anything else, use this. That's actually even simpler. So my summary and takeaways are as follows. Then I'll catch up on comments and we'll move to the normal questions from the community tab. Takeaway number one is Hilton, in other words, buying points at half cent each, boutique hotels, Capital One Portal or Rove, and car rentals all require cash back. Takeaway number two is I should strongly consider getting a double cash. Ding, ding, ding. That's my gavel and verdict down at the bottom. Did I say ding, ding? I meant bang, bang, bang. That's my verdict down at the bottom there. And lastly, keep targeting the best cash back options for a bunch of everyday spend. So do what I said in the previous page. Just try to get your best everyday spend on cash back. If it happens to also be something where you can earn city points, even better. Love city more? Question mark. This is hard for me because you all know I went through a phase about a year ago where I had a really bad customer service experience with City. And let's be honest, their customer service is still trash. It's not going to get better, at least not in the near future. Pretty sure their IT was all put together in 1994 and they've just never upgraded. And if you're leaving your home territory, you're going to get fraud alerts and shut down. So don't use them while traveling, but just if you're a local guy who spends on gas, grocery, dining, that kind of stuff, and you're just driving around your suburban area or your equivalent of the greater Des Moines area, now that they have American, now that I Prefer has gotten sorted out, I think we got to love City more. And that's the verdict. All right. That ends where I'm going to cut off the, whatever you call it, the part I'm going to chop out to turn into a standalone video. So let's go back to the comments here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging in there, all 57 of you. Happy Tom says, an example. This is where he said earlier, I'll go back to the prior comment, a cautionary tale. Reputable car companies may have unreputable international affiliates. And I use the example of an Italian company called It's a Car. An example would be National Car Rental in Italy uses Lucato. Okay, so just keep an eye out that even though it might be booked through National, you'll go to the Lucato desk, and that's not great. MR says, don't trust Europeans. Got it. I wonder, when I rented through Hertz and Enterprise my previous 2 times in the United Kingdom, were any of those like behind the scenes some other company? The big sign on the wall was Hertz and Enterprise. I don't know. I gotta blow my nose here. Tom DeKay says, a city hack, you can pay your credit cards by phone with a debit card, and Affinity Federal Credit Union has a 1% cash back on debit, so it increases your total earnings with not too much trouble. Can confirm. Paying City. Using a debit card to pay your city bills gets you an extra 1%. So your 3% cash back on the City Strata Premier kind of becomes like 4%. And I have an Affinity Credit Federal. I have an Affinity, and oh my word, Affinity Federal Credit Union. I have an Affinity Federal Credit Union checking account. I was thinking about closing it. Maybe I should keep it open. I don't think I ever picked up a debit card. So, yeah, I need to look into that. Do all of their accounts do that, or is it only certain accounts, and are there hoops to jump through? I also know there's a credit union here in the Des Moines area. It's a very small local credit union. It's only got 3 or 4 branches. They're building a new one somewhere that has a checking account where it's like, I think you can get 6% cash back, or not 6% cash back, 6% APY in your checking account balance up to $6,000 over the course of a year. But you have to jump through a bunch of hoops. Like you have to maintain a certain balance, and you have to make at least 10 debit card transactions a month and that kind of thing. But I think they also give debit cash back if you jump through the hoops. So I'll need to actually look around and think of like credit unions and other places that might do that even locally to me if for some reason Affinity doesn't work out. But hey, that is one of the best tips I've heard in a long time. 750 Dugroz points for you, Tom. Boom. QC Man says, odd that Air Canada is such a promiscuous partner, but not with City. Okay, they're not with City. So Whatever the alliance is that United is a part of, are there any easy ways to backdoor into United with City points? Let me know if any of you know of any. Tom says triggers debit cash back on Affinity debit card. Okay, thank you for the data point. QC Man says, I remember that City video, Doug. I thought you'd never go back to City, but AA as a transfer partner will do that to you. Weird, huh? And I'm sure I'm going to have a love-hate relationship to him. One of the examples I did 2 weeks ago was like 5.8 cents per point on a flight domestically from like Des Moines to Dallas or something like that. When I book that flight, I'm going to love City. When they lock my debit card for no reason or charge me a fee on an account that's not even open anymore, I'm going to go, "Ugh." Or if I call them in advance and go online and say, just to let you know, I'm going to Amsterdam next week. Okay, that'll be fine. And I buy a bottled water out of a vending machine in Amsterdam and it locks my card down semi-permanently and I have to get a piece of paper to unlock it. When that happens, I'll be upset. But thank you, QC, man. D Green says bank account bonuses can be an additional cashback earning strategy and would fit well with your strategy. I agree. I need to lean into that even more. I mentioned the Chime Bank $450 I did at the beginning of the video. Going to be cashing out those swag bucks pretty soon. Probably. I don't think I'm going to do gift cards, but maybe. Chris Sevi said, I would rather Amex than Citi. Gold plus Blue Business Plus Wyndham Business Earner. Oh, let's see. With gold, you would get grocery and dining. Blue Business Plus will get you everything else. Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, though. How are you going to get cash out of Amex? That's the problem. If I don't keep the business platinum around, which is not worth it to me after year one, there's no way to cash out for a penny per point without taking a terrible haircut. So if you're someone that doesn't have cash needs, that's the great thing about the PATH program. I'm not sure why I'm looking over there. That's just like a map on the wall. But I'll talk to the map on the wall. If you're someone who has different needs, like, I did at the beginning, my PATH goals, pick your goals. Let's say instead of cheap domestic flights, you want to do nothing but luxurious first and business class international flights. If that's you, then what you just said about Amex makes way more sense. So, yeah, I'm with you if you have different goals, Chris. TH says, you just have to set up travel notifications on the app. I've used Strata Premier in Paris, Amsterdam, and Berlin last month. No problem. Wonder why some people have so many problems and some don't. QC Man gifts another Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Dance to the music. Thank you, QC Man. I appreciate that. Way to control the quality. Mertz is here and says, the only caveat is you cannot use an Amex debit card to pay Citi. It has to be paid over the phone. Do they only take MasterCard and Visa for over the phone payments? That's my guess. So the Affinity one must be either MasterCard or Visa. There's a Wyndham debit card that earns rewards. I actually looked into that and did the math, not publicly, but like on a piece of paper and in my head. They actually charge like $6 a month to have the debit card unless you're over a certain threshold of spend, then it's lowered to something else. And you earn half a Wyndham point per dollar or something like that. So I did all the math and found out like with paying the fee and how I value Wyndham points, I would come out ahead. But if I could get 1% cash back on another debit card, that would be actually better mathematically. And then I could use that to buy Wyndham points when they're on sale. So it is true they have a debit card, but if there's one out there that gives you 1% cash back, that's better. David Williams says, rewards checking usually aren't very good. Too many hoops. Discover 1% debit card is good. I wonder if Citi lets you pay with a Discover debit card. I kind of doubt it. Discover has a low cap, says Mertz. And Sleepy Rod says, I think earning Citi points through natural spend will be hard, especially if you're splitting with Chase cards for Hyatt. Maybe I have to give up on Hyatt's. That actually reminds me, I said earlier, let me come back to some comments on Chase. So what's really ironic is of all the cards that I have more Chase cards than any others. And let me just show you here. I'll pull up a quick peek. Sorry. Now I have to go. I shouldn't have done that. Now I have to share my screen again. Okay, can you see it? There it is. Okay, big and eyes. No, hit the wrong button. Slideshow, not share. This isn't perfectly up to date. For example, this fifth third card's been canceled, but this is pretty much my wife and I set up right now. Here's the chase section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I ditched the IHG card, but my wife added the CSP. So it's still 12. So what's this come out to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 35. Of the 35 cards, 12 of them, or roughly a third, are with Chase. Here's what's happening with Chase, though, is the ability to earn lots of points is getting harder and harder. So I'm in a situation right now where I've got a decent amount of Chase points and I've got a decent amount of Aeroplan points, but my ability to use the Aeroplan trip, I feel like, is going to be diminished over time. It's very clear the Ink Train is getting harder and harder to use. And yes, I did just get the 75,000 point offer on my wife for the CSP, and I got 15,000 points. It's already pending in my account for the referral, but that referral is going away in the not too distant future, in that it's am I remembering correctly, it's only going to be for people who have never had the card before, so it won't work for churning anymore. So there's 15,000 fewer easier points. The 40,000 point referrals on the business side went down to 10,000, and it can't be someone that's had the card before. So the whole player one, player two carousel of referrals is going away. They're implementing family type language, which will probably have pop-up blockers. So as weird as this is to say, because I've been Mr. Chase for a while now, I have a feeling my relationship with Chase is going to start waning, where if things continue going the way they are now, in about 2 years, 2.5 years, yeah, lots of nodding here. Me and Chase might not be together anymore. In fact, I could honestly envision a scenario where, like, I'm not earning enough points to maintain the Aeroplan card and I get rid of them. I could keep my rotating category cards because they aren't going to cause any harm, and I'll keep my Chasing business cash, but get rid of everything else. I won't have any transfer partner cards at all. I could see that honestly happening. My relationship with Amex right now and in the foreseeable future is one that's just sign-up bonuses. I don't really use them on an ongoing basis. I like the Hilton Surpass, not for spending, but for the perks. So, yeah, I may not be a Chase guy in the future. I might be a Capital One City guy. Those are just some thoughts. Okay, where were we? That was Sleepy Rod's comment, and it was a good comment because it reminded me to talk about Chase. It will be hard, but it's hard to earn points naturally anywhere. And again, please remember, the path method is all about natural spend. We all know sign-up bonuses are where it's at year one. I'll keep doing sign-up bonuses wherever I have to find them. If I go through every single major ecosystem and I'm doing like PenFed cards and Navy Federal cards and Green State Credit Union here in Iowa and South Ottumwa Savings Bank sign-up bonuses for $75 after spending $300 on hot dog stands, I'll do it because sign-up bonuses are worthwhile. I'm not going to stop doing sign-up bonuses. I'm just thinking of how to do my everyday spend. But yeah, that was an awesome comment, Sleepy Rod. Thank you for throwing that out, even if there are a lot of nuances to it. Mert says, Citi doesn't explicitly prohibit Amex. They just require a 16-digit number. So if Discover has 16 digits, it should work. Ian says, Tom's comment should definitely be behind the paywall. I get what you're saying. I'll kind of just leave it at that. There's only 57 of us on board here. Cesar says, I'm 1 hour and 40 minutes behind, but I'm happy to see you book the hotel for the PR meetup. Thank you, Cesar. Let me know if you have any input on any of those things. QC Man 2000. And by the way, I am really looking forward to it. So if you're not sure, November 7th through... So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, just in case, there is what's called a small content creators meetup in the credit card points and miles space. It's going to be people like me, Uncle Luke, Chad from Chad's Money Minutes, Matt Clausen, John R. Maybe not those exact people, but people like that. You know, kind of all of our bros here. I don't know why we all have this little clique here, Sledge, etc. We're all going down to Puerto Rico. November 7th is the day I'm planning to get there. The actual meetup will be at the T-Mobile Center sometime on Saturday the 8th, and I'm planning to go home on Tuesday the 11th. So let's just say the 7th through the 9th-ish of November. That's the weekend leading into Veterans Day. Some people get Veterans Day off work. I don't. So maybe that's helpful for you to know about if you wonder what I'm talking about. Be there if you can. QC Man says you can't ever ditch the Golden Ponies graphic, even though it's technically obsolete. Absolutely. I'm going to try to do it. Won't. I went in and checked to see if it would let me do the card design studio, and it said it won't, coming soon. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Somebody suggested, maybe Filmo himself said, get a sticker. And if I need to do that, I will. If any of you are like graphic designers who print things, let me know. And send me a PDF file or something. That'd be awesome. Cesar. Tom also says the account is free. No hopes catch is probably no hoops. Cashback is limited to $1,000 in spend a month, but I have 5 of the free accounts and only use it to pay city cards. Oh boy, how about that? Same day ACH pull. Okay, so if I had 2 custom caches and I max it out every month, that would be about the most I could do. Cesar says I'm way behind, but I like to watch the whole live. Thank you, appreciate that. Got some people shouting each other out. Tom says, with PayPal bill pay now dead, I maxed out $50 a month by paying Chase, Amex, and Citi. Okay. I used to use PayPal bill pay to pay my utility company, the energy company, because they charge a flat fee of like $2.85 every time you pay them. Now, the good news is you can pay 2 or 3 months at a time and minimize that. But they used to allow PayPal bill pay. And when you could do that, there was no fee at all. And the category would flow through and I'd still get the 5X, but that's not a thing anymore. Wrong one. QC Man says, so your wife's CSP bonus might be the last hurrah for UR points. It might be. I'm going to try something with that. I'm going to try to get her one more business card. I'm going to try me to get one more business card and just see if it works. I don't know if it will, but let's give it a shot. But yeah, that might be the last hurrah for UR points. Here's fingers crossed they'll let me get a Bonvoy card. Chad is here. Yo, your ears must have been burning when I said your name. I need to ask you a question offline sometime, Chad. Remind me. Cesar Joel says hi to Chad, and so does QC Man. He says hi back. All right, that's great. I think we're done with the theme of the day. So now let's do 2 things. First of all, we'll transition into our community tab questions. We've only got like 4, so it shouldn't take more than about 10 minutes. And I have to go to the bathroom. So let's take our biology break. I haven't done that in a few weeks. Hang in there. You're going to stare at a screen. If you get a YouTube advertisement, please just watch it because, you know, what else are you going to do? And listen to some copyright-free music that I hope you enjoy. Where is the music? Let's see. We'll try low. 2 minutes. I'm back. Thanks for your patience there. I got into thinking about something and forgot that I was doing a live stream. So glad I remembered. Thank you for the 48 of you who decided to stay on board. All right. Every Friday, I put a picture on my community tab on Facebook, and you are supposed to guess what the picture is. Here's today's picture. Guess where that is. And you can also ask me any questions you have about the world of cashback, points, miles, more. There aren't a whole lot this week, but we'll go ahead and get to those right now. Now, this isn't the ones where people suggested comments who were channel members, but this will be other stuff. So what do we got in the picture here? Well, I've got a guy in the corner. That's me. You got something that looks like a statue of someone pointing at something, and some fish people, and a dude and a lady and a statue. Yeah. All right. RemGB guessed that this is the Neptune fountain at the Schönbrunn Palace Gardens in Vienna, Austria. That is a great guess, and I'll give you half credit. So you get 500 Dugroz points because it is in Vienna, Austria, but it's not at the Schönbrunn Palace. And then Ron Byrne said, I'm guessing Vienna, Austria for the location. So you both get 500 points. 500 Dugroz points to Rem, 500 Dugroz points to Ron. Good guesses. This is actually just some random place in Vienna I walked by and wanted to take a picture of. We were at a park where we were at downtown Vienna, not too far from St. Stephen's Cathedral, eating some ice cream. And before we wanted to transition to our other next stop, which was riding the subway, we wanted to use the bathrooms, but there were no public bathrooms nearby. And you had to walk several blocks to get there. So while walking from the ice cream place to the place with the public bathrooms, you had to go kind of around the corner of a building. There was a building that came to almost a point like this. And right at the front of the building was this kind of cool looking statue. I'm guessing that's supposed to be like Neptune and his wife, maybe. I'm just speculating. If anybody actually knows, by all means, let me know. Chip in. Stowasilu. Stoasilisu. Sorry, I probably pronounced that terribly wrong. I'm so sorry. I know I've tried it before. Dugroz going hard on cash back. Feels like point opportunities are dying for typical U.S. domestic travel. Celebrate. We got a $4.99 super chat. I appreciate that. Stowasel. If you want to put a pronunciation guide down below, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay too. Appreciate that so much. That's a great super chat. And yeah, I agree with you. It does feel like point opportunities are dying for the traditional domestic travel market. Steve says the future for most is going to be 2% cash back, I think, unless you're just a super maximizer or have organic high-end spend to justify the CSR or the platinum. And I don't disagree with that. That's a good observation. Moving on with the community tab questions here. Ron also said this. You mentioned that you refereed football several years ago. How did you get started in that side gig? Well, I'll tell you the short version because I don't want to take a lot of your time. Yes, I did referee football for 15 years, actually a little over 15 years. And I got a plaque when I got my 15th anniversary from the Iowa High School Athletic Association, just to prove that it's real, for my dedicated service as a member of the Iowa High School Athletic Association for 15 years as an active official. Back in college, there was a flag football game, freshman versus upperclassmen every year. And after doing that for about 3 years, a friend of mine and I noticed that the officiating was really bad. So one year we volunteered to be the officials. Even though we had no formal training, at least we were better than the people that had been doing it, and got a few compliments. And then later there was an intramural flag, or I don't know, something football league. Sometimes we played like tackle/flag football, and I officiated a couple of those games and kind of enjoyed it. Got some okay feedback, and then nothing happened for a couple years. And then, one thing kind of led to another. I had a friend who was like a coach of a junior high team and asked me to come be an official at a scrimmage, which you didn't have to be a certified official for. And after that, my friend and I both decided to get certified and just start officiating. And we started officiating. It was like little kids club leagues and, junior high games and that kind of stuff. Interestingly, I never actually played like varsity football in high school or anything like that. I played Pee-wee football the last year, maybe the only year, I don't remember, was like between 5th and 6th grade, something like that. So I like rules, so maybe that's what attracted me to it. I really enjoyed it while I did it, but I don't think I'm going to go back to it just because I'd have to give up my Friday nights for like a quarter of the year, and obviously preparing for my live streams and stuff. You don't make a lot of money doing high school football. You make a lot more money with this kind of stuff. So yeah, good question. Stowasi says it's my name backwards. Wesley Caotc. Couts. Couts. Wesley, thank you, Wesley. I'm going to just call you Stowasi from now on, since there is no specific pronunciation. Tiger Maple still supporting that algorithm, and I appreciate it. Next question is from Richard B. Travels. I hope that's your actual name. I'm a holder of the Fairwinds card, and the earnings in the card are fantastic. Plus, in the portal, you can redeem for 1.4 cents per point, and the hotel prices typically match Expedia, so not overpriced. The issue is on all refundable bookings, it's only 2 days of no fee, and then there's a 9 to 10% fee if you cancel. This limitation bothers me. Thoughts? I remember Uncle Luke did a video about the Fairwinds Credit Union card, which was like a poor man's old CSR. Basically, the earnings were exactly the same. It's just that, there's no transfer partners. I need to look into that more, especially now that the real CSR is going downhill. I think my comment at the time was CSR is to Transformers as Fairwinds is to GoBots. It's similar, but it's not the exact same thing. Something along those lines. But yeah, if they have the good version of Priority Pass and 1.4 cents per point, maybe that would be good for some of these things like rental cars and whatnots. If you have any other input on how like rental cars went and that kind of stuff, I would love to hear that, Richard. Thank you so much for asking the question. And then last but not least, this question is from M Sailor BTC1M. When do hotels send out promos about elite night credits? Also, when booking 2 or more rooms, do you earn elite night credits for only the first room, not all paid rooms? I said you may have me stumped here. So I've only booked multiple rooms on one reservation with Hilton, and I know I earn Hilton points on both rooms when I earn 2 at once. One thing I ran into is a couple customer service reps have told me like your free breakfast and whatnot only apply to one of the rooms, but that's never actually been enforced. So you might just have to mention that. So elite night credits where, like, let's say with Hyatt, you're trying to build up, I don't know, 80 nights to hit Globalist or whatever it is. So if you book 2 rooms on one reservation, do you get elite night credit for both? Does anybody know out there in the chat? Or you can put a comment down below if you're watching after the fact. I'm actually not sure. I believe you do, but there might be a cap of some kind on that. All right. QC Man says, you're the Ed Hockley of the credit card world, Doug. Texas Dog says he lacks the physique. That's true. Like, we've got a penalty on City over there for bad customer service. Because that's what he would do. He would somehow figure out a way to point and make his sleeves look as popped out as possible. That's it. That's all we've got. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. This is your last chance to make a contribution. I'll go back and review those who did just to thank you. Tom Graber gifted a membership. Xavier dropped $19.99. Ian dropped $4.99. Mike Newland gifted 20 Dugroz Reports memberships. Whoa. Rex Blind gifted $1.99. Texas Dog gifted $1.99. Kid Cat gifted $1.99. QC Man celebrated his 17th month of membership. Mike Newland gave an additional 99 cents. Xavier ID gave $1.99. That was on top of the previous gift. Likewise, Mike Newland's was on top of his previous gift. Ian gave another 99 cents. QC Man gave $1.99. Mike Newland gave another 1 membership. QC Man gave another 1 membership. And Stowasi gave $4.99. So lots of people giving multiple things. That's awesome. I see QC Man like my Ed Hockley imitation. And Allie is on board and says, thanks, bye. You're sure welcome, Allie. And just like Allie, I'm going to say bye to everyone else and remind you that, as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks.